Have you ever stood before an ancient ruin and felt something inexplicable, a whisper on the edge of hearing, a shiver down your spine that has nothing to do with the wind? There are places in this world that defy explanation, sites so steeped in mystery that they seem to hum with energy not entirely of this earth. For centuries, these locations have captivated explorers, historians, and dreamers alike, not just for their beauty or age, but for the eerie sensation that they might be keeping secrets about realities beyond our own. What if some of history's most enigmatic structures were not merely monuments or tombs, but something far more extraordinary? What if they were portals? From the sun-scorched deserts of Egypt to the misty highlands of Peru, our planet is dotted with places that challenge everything we think we know about history, science, and even reality itself. These are locations where the veil between worlds feels thin, where legends speak of doorways to other dimensions, and where even the most skeptical visitors sometimes leave with more questions than answers. It's a thrilling thought, one that invites us to look at human history not as a linear story, but as a tapestry interwoven with possibilities we're only beginning to grasp. Today, we're setting out on a journey to 30 of these mysterious historical sites, each one more fascinating than the last. We'll explore crumbling temples, subterranean labyrinths, and towering megaliths that have puzzled researchers for generations. Some of these places are famous, others remain hidden gems, known only to a handful of locals and intrepid adventurers. But they all share one tantalizing trait, the possibility that they may be more than meets the eye, perhaps even gateways to other realms. So settle in, open your mind, and join me as we step into the unknown and ask the question humanity has pondered for millennia. Are we truly alone in the universe, or have the answers been waiting for us here all along? Our journey begins in the rolling green countryside of Wiltshire, England, with perhaps the most iconic and instantly recognizable mysterious site on Earth, Stonehenge. This colossal ring of standing stones, some weighing as much as 25 tons, has stood silent sentinel for over 4,500 years. While it's a famous tourist destination today, its true purpose remains one of history's most tantalizing puzzles. Archaeologists tell us it was a burial ground, an astronomical calendar, a place of healing. But what if its function was far more profound? The precision of its construction is the first clue that there's more to this story. The giant sarsen stones are arranged in a perfect circle, aligned with breathtaking accuracy to the movements of the sun and moon. During the summer and winter solstices, the sun rises and sets in perfect harmony with the stones, casting long, dramatic shadows through the pillars. This celestial connection has fueled speculation for centuries. Could such precise astronomical knowledge point to a design that doesn't just track dimensions, but potentially opens into them? Local folklore is rich with tales that suggest exactly that. For generations, stories have been passed down of Druids, the ancient Celtic wise men, using the stone circle as a conduit for spiritual travel. These legends speak of rituals performed within the circle that allowed priests to journey to other realms, to communicate with deities, or to access ancient wisdom. It's a powerful narrative that transforms Stonehenge from a static monument into a dynamic, active gateway. This idea finds a curious echo in some modern metaphysical theories. Researchers and dowsers have long spoken about the existence of ley lines, invisible channels of Earth energy that crisscross the globe, connecting ancient sacred sites in a vast, mysterious network. Stonehenge, according to these theories, sits at a powerful intersection of these lines, a place where the planet's natural energy is concentrated into a vortex. Visitors to the site often report strange sensations, a sudden drop in temperature, feelings of dizziness or elation, or the distinct sense of being watched by an unseen presence. Could these be the residual effects of a dormant portal, the energy still whispering of its potential? While mainstream science remains skeptical, the persistence of these experiences, coupled with the site's enduring mystery, keeps the door to possibility wide open. Leaving the misty moors of England behind, our quest now takes us to the arid sands of Egypt, to a structure so monumental and perfect that it has inspired awe and speculation for millennia, the Great Pyramid of Giza. While Stonehenge is a marvel of megalithic engineering, the Great Pyramid is on an entirely different scale, a colossus of mathematics and stone that seems to defy the very era of its creation. Built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu around 2,500 years before the Common Era, its official purpose is well documented. Yet, the sheer sophistication of its design has led many to wonder if it was built for something far grander than simply housing a body for the afterlife. Consider the numbers for a moment. The pyramid's base is almost a perfect square, with sides aligned to the 4 cardinal directions with an accuracy within a fraction of a degree. This precision is astounding for any age, let alone a time without modern tools. The original casing stones, now mostly gone, were polished limestone fitted together so seamlessly that a razor blade couldn't slide between them. This isn't just tomb building, this is an obsessive, almost divine pursuit of perfection. Many researchers argue this mathematical and astronomical precision suggests the pyramid was designed as a machine to harness the very energy of the Earth or the cosmos. This idea of the pyramid as an energy conductor is central to many alternative theories. Its shape is a powerful geometric form, a pyramidion, believed by some to focus electromagnetic energy. Scientific studies have even detected that the pyramid can concentrate electromagnetic energy in its internal chambers and beneath its base, a fascinating property that ancient builders couldn't possibly have understood in modern terms, yet seemingly engineered nonetheless. Could this concentration of energy be a side effect of its true function? Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest the pyramid was a power plant or a beacon, while others see it as a spiritual device for amplifying consciousness. Perhaps the most thrilling theory, however, is that the Great Pyramid was a stargate, a physical gateway for the pharaoh's soul to travel to the realm of the gods, or even a literal portal for interdimensional travel. This concept is fueled by ancient Egyptian texts themselves. The pyramid texts, some of the oldest religious writings in the world, are filled with incantations to help the deceased pharaoh ascend to the heavens. They speak of the king transforming into a star, of journeying through the sky with the sun god Ra. These aren't just metaphors for a peaceful death, they are detailed, almost technical manuals for astral travel, suggesting a profound belief that the pyramid was the launchpad for this cosmic voyage. Adding fuel to this speculative fire are the countless anecdotal accounts from modern visitors and researchers who have experienced strange phenomena within its confines. People report sudden, overwhelming emotions, from intense peace to sheer terror. Others speak of camera failures and equipment malfunctions in specific chambers, particularly the so-called King's Chamber. More compelling are the rare but persistent reports of time slips, brief, disorienting moments where individuals claim to have glimpsed ancient ceremonies or heard echoing voices speaking in unknown tongues. While skeptics dismiss these as products of suggestion or the stifling atmosphere, the consistency of these reports is striking. They paint a picture of a place that is not entirely inert, a structure that might still hold a dormant charge of whatever incredible purpose it was originally built to serve. From the geometric perfection of the Great Pyramid, we travel across the Atlantic to a site shrouded in mist and mystery, high in the Andes Mountains of Peru. Nestled between soaring peaks at an altitude of nearly 8,000 feet, the ancient Incan citadel of Machu Picchu feels less like a ruined city and more like a world unto itself. Its discovery by the outside world in 1911 only added to its enigmatic aura, as it appeared that the jungle had reclaimed a place that was never meant to be found. Unlike the pyramid, which was built to dominate the landscape, Machu Picchu was designed to hide within it, a secret sanctuary with a purpose that many believe was profoundly spiritual and perhaps interdimensional. The first clue to its otherworldly nature lies in the breathtaking precision of its construction. The stonework at Machu Picchu is a marvel of engineering, with massive granite blocks cut and fitted together so perfectly that not even a single piece of paper can slide between them. This technique, known as ashlar masonry, required an almost supernatural understanding of stone and geometry. The Incas did not use mortar. The stability of their structures relies entirely on the intricate carving of each stone to interlock with its neighbors. This method also makes the buildings incredibly resilient to the frequent earthquakes that shake the region, as the stones simply bounce and settle back into place. Such advanced knowledge has led many to question how a civilization without the wheel or iron tools could achieve such a feat. Could this mastery over stone be evidence of a lost technology, or perhaps knowledge imparted from another source entirely? For the indigenous Quechua people, the answer has always been woven into their spiritual beliefs. They see Machu Picchu not merely as an archaeological site, but as a living, sacred center of powerful energy. They believe it sits at the confluence of apus or mountain spirits and is crisscrossed by spiritual pathways similar to ley lines. This location is considered a direct link to the spirit world, a place where the veil between the physical and the metaphysical is exceptionally thin. Rituals and offerings are still made here to honor Pachamama, or Mother Earth, and to communicate with other realms. This isn't ancient history, it's a living tradition that continues to this day, suggesting a deep, enduring power recognized for centuries. Visitors to the citadel often report experiences that seem to validate these ancient beliefs. The most common phenomenon is the sudden appearance of unexplained mists that roll in and obscure parts of the city, even on otherwise clear and sunny days. These are not typical weather patterns. They appear and vanish with an eerie swiftness, as if a door is briefly opening and closing. Others speak of hearing strange sounds, disembodied whispers, the faint echo of distant drums, or melodies played on instruments unknown to modern ears. Some have reported feeling sudden, intense emotional shifts, from profound peace to overwhelming sadness, or the distinct sensation of being touched or watched by an unseen presence. Could Machu Picchu be a gateway, as the legends say? Its secluded location, its architecturally perfect alignment with celestial bodies, and the persistent reports of paranormal activity create a compelling case. It stands as a testament to a civilization that viewed the cosmos not as a distant void, but as a connected, living system, a system they may have built portals to access. Leaving the cloud-shrouded peaks of the Andes, our exploration of potential portals now carries us to one of the most remote and enigmatic locations on the planet, Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. Isolated in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, this tiny volcanic speck is home to nearly 900 massive stone figures known as moai. These haunting, monolithic giants, with their solemn, elongated faces and imposing presence, have stood for centuries as a silent, stone-faced army gazing inward across the island. While their iconic status is undeniable, the true story of their creation and purpose is a mystery that has baffled experts for generations, leading to theories that stretch far beyond the conventional. The central, enduring question is one of pure logistics. How did a small, prehistoric society, with limited resources and no advanced technology, quarry, transport, and erect statues that weigh up to 80 tons? The moai were carved from compressed volcanic ash at a single quarry within the Rono Raraku crater. From there, they were somehow moved miles across rugged terrain to ceremonial platforms called ahu dotting the coastline. Mainstream archaeology suggests they were walked upright by teams of people rocking them forward with ropes, a method demonstrated in experiments. Yet, even with this plausible theory, the scale of the endeavor remains staggering. It required not just immense manpower, but a sophisticated and unified societal effort that seems to push against the limits of what we believe was possible. This incredible feat has inevitably fueled speculation that the Rapa Nui people might have possessed lost knowledge or assistance from a more advanced source, perhaps even one not of this world. For the Rapa Nui people, however, the Moai are much more than archaeological puzzles. They are sacred vessels of spiritual energy known as mana. According to their oral traditions, the statues are not mere representations of ancestors, they are the literal embodiment of them. It was believed that upon their erection on an ahu, the spirit of the deceased chief would inhabit the statue, allowing his mana to watch over and protect his descendants for eternity. This spiritual function forms the bedrock of a far more intriguing local legend, that the Moai are guardians. Many islanders speak of the statues not just as protectors of the people, but as sentinels for the land itself. Folklore whispers that the Moai mark the entrances to a vast and secret subterranean world known as Te Pito o Te Henua, or the navel of the world. These tunnels, it is said, wind deep beneath the island's surface, connecting ancient caves and chambers that hold the forgotten history and wisdom of the Rapa Nui people. Some tales even suggest these tunnels are not entirely natural, but were created or modified to serve as a refuge or a sacred space. The Moai, positioned with their backs to the sea, are thus seen as eternal guardians of these thresholds, their powerful mana serving to either seal these entrances from something within or to protect them from something outside. This concept of the Moai as dimensional markers takes the legend a step further into the realm of high strangeness. Some researchers and enthusiasts point to the island's unique and powerful electromagnetic fields. Visitors and scientists alike have recorded unusual energy readings and magnetic anomalies around certain ahu and the quarry itself. Could these energetic hotspots be the residual signature of something far more profound? The theory proposes that the Moai were strategically placed at specific points where the Earth's energy grid is most active, effectively acting as stabilizers or conduits for dimensional rifts. Their solemn gaze, therefore, might not be looking at the island, but intently watching a thin point in the fabric of reality itself, ensuring nothing unwanted passes through. Whether as tombs, guardians, or interdimensional watchmen, the Moai of Easter Island stand as a powerful testament to human ingenuity and the enduring pull of the unknown. Leaving the remote isolation of Easter Island behind, we now journey to a windswept hilltop in southeastern Turkey, where a discovery so profound has radically rewritten the very beginnings of human civilization. This is Göbekli Tepe, a sprawling complex of intricately carved stone circles that dates back an almost incomprehensible 11,600 years. To put that in perspective, this majestic temple was already ancient by the time the Great Pyramid was built. It predates Stonehenge by around 6,000 years and the invention of pottery or agriculture. Its mere existence shatters the long-held belief that complex religion and monumental architecture were the products of settled farming societies. Instead, Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite, that it was the urge to worship, to build this sacred place that may have first brought people together and sparked the dawn of agriculture. But why here, and for what incredible purpose was such a sophisticated structure created at the very dawn of human history? The sophistication of the construction is the first staggering anomaly. The site consists of multiple circular enclosures, each defined by massive, T-shaped limestone pillars weighing many tons. These aren't crude blocks, they are masterfully shaped and adorned with elaborate bas-reliefs of animals, foxes, cranes, scorpions, and boars, carved with an artistic skill that seems to belong to a much later period. The pillars are arranged in precise circles, with two even larger central pillars positioned directly in the middle of each enclosure. The engineering knowledge required to quarry, transport, and erect these monoliths implies a level of social organization and technical skill that archaeologists never imagined for hunter-gatherer societies of that era. This was not a gradual evolution of building techniques. It was a sudden, inexplicable leap to architectural genius. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is that this masterpiece was not lost to time through decay, but was deliberately and carefully buried around 8,000 years before the Common Era. Every enclosure was filled with an astounding amount of soil, rubble, and animal bones, effectively entombing the entire complex and preserving it in near-perfect condition for millennia. This was not a hasty act of destruction. It was a systematic, labor-intensive process of concealment. The question of why its creators went to such lengths to hide it away has fueled endless speculation. Was it buried to protect it from an invading culture, to seal away something inside that was too powerful or too dangerous to be left in the open? Or was it an act of reverence, a way to retire a holy place whose purpose had been fulfilled or whose power had become too potent to handle? This deliberate burial feeds directly into the most captivating theories about Göbekli Tepe's true function. The site's incredible age and advanced design have led some researchers to propose it was not built by primitive humans alone, but was constructed with knowledge imparted by an outside intelligence, perhaps even interdimensional beings. The strange iconography on the pillars adds fuel to this fire. Alongside the realistic animals are more abstract geometric symbols and humanoid figures that are less clearly defined, some appearing to wear non-functional items that look like belts or collars. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory see these as possible representations of otherworldly visitors, and the entire complex as a commemorative site built to honor that contact. A more nuanced interpretation, however, suggests Göbekli Tepe was designed as a massive energy conduit or an astronomical observatory tuned to frequencies beyond our normal perception. The specific arrangement of the pillars and their precise alignments with certain stars, particularly those in the Cygnus constellation, have been noted by researchers. Some have detected unusual geomagnetic and low-frequency acoustic anomalies at the site, leading to the idea that it was built atop a powerful energy vortex. In this view, the temple was a machine for harnessing celestial or terrestrial forces, a place where shamans or priests could literally tune into other dimensions. The act of burying it, then, might have been a way to shut this powerful gateway down, to disconnect from a source that had become unstable or too overwhelming for its creators. Göbekli Tepe stands as a silent, buried sentinel from a forgotten age, challenging our timeline of history and daring us to consider that humanity's first great achievement was not a farm or a village but a portal. From the ancient, buried stones of Göbekli Tepe, we now voyage into the heart of one of the world's most infamous modern mysteries, a place not made of stone, but of water and air, where the very laws of physics seem to unravel. This is the Bermuda Triangle, a vast stretch of the Atlantic Ocean bounded by points in Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. Unlike our previous sites, which are anchored to specific coordinates, this enigmatic zone is a concept as much as a location, a place where ships and aircraft have vanished without a trace for over a century, leaving behind a legacy of fear, fascination, and a plethora of theories that range from the scientific to the spectacularly paranormal. The lore of the Bermuda Triangle is built upon a foundation of well-documented and deeply unsettling historical incidents. One of the most famous cases is Flight 19, a squadron of 5 United States Navy Avenger torpedo bombers that took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a routine training mission in December of 1945. Shortly after takeoff, the flight leader reported that his compasses had malfunctioned and that he could not be certain of his position. Radio transmissions revealed a growing sense of confusion and disorientation among the experienced pilots, with one famously stating, "We are entering white water, nothing seems right." The planes, along with a 13-man crew, vanished and were never seen again. Even more chilling, a PBM Mariner flying boat sent on the search and rescue mission also disappeared with its entire 13-man crew, adding to the tragedy and the mystery. These weren't novices, they were trained military personnel operating with standard equipment, yet they were seemingly swallowed whole by the sea and sky. This pattern of strange electronic disturbances is a common thread linking many triangle disappearances. Pilots and ship captains have frequently reported sudden, severe compass malfunctions, where the needle spins wildly or points to true north instead of magnetic north. There are accounts of radios fading into static or emitting bizarre, unidentifiable noises just before communication is lost entirely. In an era before GPS, such a loss of navigation could easily spell doom, leading a vessel hopelessly off course. But the phenomenon often seems to go beyond simple instrument failure. Some survivors of harrowing experiences in the region speak of entering sudden, inexplicable banks of fog that appear out of a clear blue sky, a phenomenon that doesn't align with typical maritime weather patterns. Others describe the ocean itself behaving strangely, with waves coming from multiple directions at once or the water taking on an unearthly, phosphorescent glow. To explain these terrifying occurrences, a wide array of theories have been proposed. Mainstream science offers several rational, if no less fascinating, explanations. One prominent idea points to the large concentrations of methane hydrates, essentially frozen natural gas known to exist on the seafloor in this region. The theory suggests that a massive methane bubble could erupt from the ocean floor, rising to the surface and drastically reducing the water's density. A ship caught in such a plume would lose its buoyancy instantly and sink without warning. Furthermore, if such a giant bubble reached the atmosphere, it could create a supersaturated, turbulent air mass, causing an aircraft's engines to stall or creating a deadly pocket of low density that would cause it to drop from the sky. Other scientific explanations focus on the area's unique environmental factors. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the only places on Earth where a true magnetic north and a true geographic north align, a point known as agonic line. This can indeed cause compass readings to be inaccurate if not corrected for. The region is also notorious for its violently unpredictable weather, capable of generating sudden, powerful microbursts and rogue waves that can reach heights of over 100 feet, more than enough to overwhelm any ship or aircraft. The powerful Gulf Stream current flows directly through the zone, capable of rapidly erasing all evidence of a disaster by scattering debris across thousands of miles of ocean. Yet, for all the compelling science, the more extraordinary theories capture the imagination in a way that rational explanations often cannot. The concept of the Bermuda Triangle as a dimensional portal is a persistent and thrilling idea. Proponents suggest this zone is a permanent, unstable rift in the fabric of spacetime, a place where the barriers between our reality and another briefly and randomly thin, allowing objects to pass through. This could explain the complete lack of wreckage or debris in so many cases. The ships and planes didn't sink, they simply slipped into another dimension. The reports of strange fogs and electronic disturbances are seen as the sensory side effects of this thinning veil, the visible and measurable energy of the portal itself. A related theory proposes the existence of a powerful, ancient crystal technology lying on the ocean floor, a remnant of the lost civilization of Atlantis, which some believe sank in this very area. This crystal, the theory goes, could still be active, periodically emitting powerful energy beams that interfere with instrumentation and create violent vortices that pull objects into the depths. Whether through supernatural rift or Atlantean technology, the Bermuda Triangle endures as a powerful symbol of the unknown, a reminder that even in our modern, mapped world, there are still places where the rules we rely on can suddenly and terrifyingly cease to apply. Shifting our focus from the deep sea to the vast desert, we arrive at one of the most visually stunning and perplexing mysteries in all of archaeology, the Nazca Lines of southern Peru. Etched into the high, arid plains of the Pampa de Nazca are hundreds of enormous geoglyphs, giant figures, and complex geometric patterns so massive that they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. Created by the Nazca culture between 500 years before the Common Era and 500 years after, these lines were made by simply removing the dark, sun-baked top layer of pebbles to reveal the lighter-colored sand beneath. This technique has preserved them for centuries in the rainless climate, but it is their breathtaking scale and inexplicable purpose that has captivated the world and ignited debates that reach for the stars. The sheer diversity and precision of the designs are staggering. They range from perfectly straight lines that run for miles, crisscrossing the desert like a colossal runway, to immense triangles and trapezoids. But the most famous glyphs are the elaborate biomorphic figures: a hummingbird with a wingspan as wide as a jet, a spider, a monkey with an intricately coiled tail, a killer whale, and even a humanoid figure nicknamed the astronaut. The accuracy of their proportions is flawless. From the ground, one simply sees a confusing network of paths, but from the air, the figures emerge with perfect symmetry and clarity. This fact is the core of the mystery. Why would a people who had no means of flight create such immense and detailed artworks that they themselves could never see? The obvious conclusion is that they were not created for human eyes at all. This very question gave rise to one of the most popular and controversial theories, famously championed by author Erich von Däniken in the 1960s. He proposed that the Nazca Plateau was a giant airfield for ancient astronauts, extraterrestrial visitors, who were misinterpreted as gods by primitive cultures. In this view, the long, straight lines and wide trapezoids were landing strips for spacecraft, while the intricate animal figures served as navigational markers, each one designating a specific destination or purpose for the celestial travelers. The theory suggests that the Nazca people created these signs according to the instructions of their otherworldly visitors, a permanent greeting card etched into the desert floor for their return. While mainstream archaeologists largely dismiss this idea, it persists in the public imagination because it directly addresses the most puzzling aspect of the lines: their need for an aerial viewer. A more nuanced and perhaps even more fascinating interpretation expands on this idea, suggesting the lines were not for physical ships but for interdimensional travel. Some researchers point to the strange electromagnetic and energy anomalies reported by pilots and visitors flying over the plateau. There are accounts of compasses behaving erratically and of a palpable, heavy energy in the air around certain figures. This has led to the theory that the Nazca lines are not landing strips, but rather a gigantic map or a ritual diagram tuned to specific cosmic or telluric energies. The geometric shapes might act as conduits or amplifiers for this energy, while the animal figures could represent constellations or spiritual symbols meant to guide non-corporeal entities, perhaps the souls of the dead or interdimensional beings, through a portal or a vortex. The indigenous perspective, often overlooked in these speculative debates, offers a profoundly spiritual explanation that still hints at a connection to other realms. Many local descendants believe the lines were sacred pathways or sects, walked by shamans during powerful ritual ceremonies. Under the influence of sacred plants like the San Pedro cactus, these spiritual leaders would enter trance states to communicate with deities and ancestors in the spirit world. From this elevated state of consciousness, the shaman's spirit could theoretically rise above the desert and see the figures. In this view, the glyphs were not meant for physical extraterrestrials, but for the human spirit journeying into other dimensions. The lines themselves might have been walked in specific patterns as a form of meditation or to generate energy for these spiritual voyages, making the entire desert a massive, functioning ritual space. Whether as alien runways, energy maps, or shamanic pathways, the Nazca lines remain an awe-inspiring enigma, a message carved into the skin of the planet whose meaning we are still striving to decipher. Moving from the stark desert canvas of Nazca, we now venture into the lush jungles of Cambodia, to a site that represents the pinnacle of spiritual and architectural ambition, the magnificent temple complex of Angkor Wat. Unlike any structure we've explored so far, Angkor Wat is not a mysterious ruin whose builders are lost to time. It was constructed in the 12th century by King Suryavarman II as a vast Hindu temple dedicated to the god Vishnu, later transforming into a Buddhist site. Its historical purpose is well known, yet the scale, symbolism, and persistent legends surrounding it elevate it beyond a mere place of worship into something that feels truly otherworldly. This is not a puzzle of unknown origins, but a confirmed masterpiece that nonetheless hums with an energy that suggests a function far beyond the religious. The first clue to its extraordinary nature is its breathtaking celestial alignment. The entire sprawling complex is a microcosm of the Hindu universe, a stone representation of Mount Meru, the sacred five-peaked mountain believed to be the center of all cosmic, spiritual, and physical realms. The most stunning alignment occurs during the spring equinox. On this day, from a specific vantage point in front of the temple, the sun rises directly over the central lotus tower, perfectly crowning the pinnacle of this stone mountain. This precision, aligning a massive earthly structure with a specific celestial event, echoes the astronomical genius we saw at Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid. It demonstrates a profound desire to anchor the temple not just to the earth, but to the very mechanics of the cosmos, creating a fixed point where heaven and earth could theoretically meet. This intention is carved into every surface of the temple. The bas-relief galleries that stretch for miles are not merely decorative, they are a sprawling narrative. Alongside depictions of historical battles and Hindu epics like the Ramayana are more enigmatic scenes. One famous panel, known as the churning of the ocean of milk, is a fantastical depiction of gods and demons cooperating to churn the cosmic ocean to obtain the elixir of immortality. The scene is populated with apsaras or celestial dancers and deities whose depictions are so intricate and fluid they seem to burst from the stone. For some researchers, these are not just mythological tales but could be interpreted as symbolic representations of interdimensional contact or advanced knowledge, a record of beings and events from a reality parallel to our own. Local Khmer legends have always spoken of Angkor Wat in these transcendent terms. It is traditionally known as a prasat, a palace or temple, but its original name, Vravishnuloka, means sacred Vishnu's abode. Folklore holds that the temple was not built by human hands alone, but was constructed with the help of the divine architect Vishvakarman, and the god Indra himself once commanded it as his celestial palace. These stories describe Angkor Wat as a literal bridge, a permanent gateway where the divine could descend to earth and the enlightened human soul could ascend to the heavenly realms. This wasn't a metaphorical connection, it was believed to be a tangible, energetic pathway. This ancient belief finds a curious echo in the strange experiences reported by modern-day visitors. While many are struck by the sheer awe of the place, a significant number report phenomena that defy easy explanation. The most common account is a profound and disorienting sense of time distortion. People speak of entering the temple complex and feeling as though only an hour has passed, only to emerge and find that half a day has vanished. Others report the opposite sensation, where time seems to stretch out, and a short walk through a gallery feels like a journey that lasts for hours. These are not just feelings of being engrossed, they are consistent, palpable experiences of temporal dislocation. Beyond time slips, visitors and guides alike tell of hearing ethereal music and chanting, sounds that seem to drift from within the ancient stones when no one else is around. There are stories of cameras malfunctioning inexplicably in certain chambers, particularly those deep within the central tower, and of electronic devices losing power only to function perfectly again upon leaving the complex. Some even speak of fleeting, shadowy figures seen from the corner of the eye, figures dressed in robes that resemble the ancient carvings, vanishing when looked at directly. Whether these experiences are the product of the site's overwhelming atmosphere, a form of psychological suggestion, or something more profound is a matter of intense personal interpretation. Yet, their persistence suggests that Angkor Wat, for all its known history, retains an active, energetic charge. It stands as a sublime monument to humanity's quest to reach beyond our world, a stone prayer that may have, in ways we cannot yet measure, actually succeeded in thinning the veil between the earthly and the divine. Leaving the humid, time-bending jungles of Cambodia, we now ascend to the high-altitude plains of the Bolivian Andes, a stark and windswept landscape that holds one of South America's greatest archaeological enigmas, the ancient city of Tiwanaku. At an awe-inspiring altitude of over 12,000 feet, this pre-Columbian site stands as a testament to a civilization that mastered its harsh environment with breathtaking skill, only to vanish and leave behind stones that whisper of cosmic connections. And at the heart of this mystery stands a single, hauntingly carved archway known as the Doorway of the Sun, a monument whose precise astronomical carvings and profound local myths suggest it may have been far more than a ceremonial object. It may have been a literal gateway for beings from another world. The doorway itself is a staggering achievement of ancient engineering and artistry. Carved from a single block of andesite granite weighing an estimated 10 tons, the arch stands about 9 feet tall and 13 feet wide. The sheer logistics of quarrying, transporting, and precisely carving such a massive slab of stone at this altitude are mind-boggling, a feat that continues to puzzle archaeologists. But it is the intricate bas-relief on the doorway's top portion that truly captivates and confounds. The central figure is a deeply carved depiction of a deity often identified as Viracocha, the Andean creator god. He is shown standing rigidly, holding a stylized staff in each hand, with tears streaming from his eyes, a poignant and mysterious detail that has never been fully explained. Flowing from his head is a magnificent headdress composed of multiple rays, each one ending in either a circle or a puma's head. This radiant being is flanked by 48 smaller, winged figures, 32 with human faces and 16 with condor heads, all shown in a repeating pattern, appearing to run toward the central deity in a perpetual state of reverence or arrival. This intricate design is far more than just religious art. It functions with stunning precision as a sophisticated astronomical calendar. The 48 figures are believed to represent a 48-week lunar solar year, a complex system for tracking time that would have been essential for agriculture and ceremony in such an extreme climate. Furthermore, the entire doorway is aligned with such accuracy that on the morning of the spring equinox, the first rays of the sun strike directly through the center of the archway, illuminating the figure of Viracocha in a dramatic burst of light. This celestial alignment echoes the solar rituals we've seen at sites like Stonehenge and Angkor Wat, reinforcing the idea that this was a place where the earthly and the heavenly were deliberately brought into harmony. Such precise astronomical knowledge implies a deep understanding of the cosmos that seems almost anachronistic for its time, leading to inevitable questions about its origins. According to the enduring myths of the local Aymara people, the answers to these questions are not terrestrial but divine. Their oral histories, passed down through countless generations, state that Tiwanaku was not built by human hands at all. They believe it was constructed in a single night by a race of giant beings who came from the stars. The Doorway of the Sun holds the central role in this legend. It is said that this was not merely a symbol but a functional stargate, an active portal through which these celestial beings, including the great god Viracocha himself, first entered our world. After bestowing knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and masonry upon the early people of the region, these gods are said to have departed through the same portal, leaving the doorway as a sealed, silent monument to their visit. For the Aymara, the site is not a ruin. It is a sacred place where the boundary between our world and the next remains exceptionally thin, a dormant gateway waiting for the return of the gods. This ancient belief in the doorway's transcendent function finds a curious parallel in some modern metaphysical theories. Researchers investigating the site's energy fields have reported unusual electromagnetic anomalies in the immediate vicinity of the archway, with compass needles fluctuating and electronic devices behaving erratically. Some visitors describe intense physical sensations when touching the stone, sudden warmth, tingling vibrations, or a wave of dizziness as if the rock itself retains a residual charge of its purported original purpose. The prominent tears on the face of the Viracocha figure have been interpreted by some not as expressions of sorrow, but as representations of energy or plasma streaming from the deity's eyes, a possible symbolic depiction of the raw power flowing through an active portal. Whether one views it through the lens of ancient myth or speculative science, the doorway of the sun stands as a powerful symbol of humanity's eternal fascination with the cosmos, a stone question mark carved into the Andes that challenges us to wonder if our ancestors were merely building monuments or if they were attempting to answer a call from the stars. From the high-altitude mysteries of the Andes, we now travel deep underground into the cool, silent darkness of southwestern France, to a site that offers a window into the very dawn of human consciousness. The Lascaux Caves are not a constructed temple or a monolithic gateway. They are a natural sanctuary, a series of caverns whose walls are adorned with some of the most sophisticated and breathtaking prehistoric art ever discovered. Painted approximately 17,000 years ago by Paleolithic artists, these images of stampeding horses, mighty bulls, and stags have long been celebrated as a masterpiece of early human creativity. But to view them only as a simple hunting catalogue is to perhaps miss a far more profound and enigmatic story whispered across the stone canvas. Some researchers and alternative historians argue that the symbols layered among these vibrant animals suggest something much more extraordinary, that our ancient ancestors were not just depicting the world they lived in, but worlds they could perceive beyond our own. The first clue to this deeper mystery lies not just in what is painted, but in how and where it is presented. The art is not haphazardly placed. It is meticulously positioned across several chambers, with specific types of animals appearing in specific rooms, often in areas that are incredibly difficult to access. The most spectacular chamber, known as the Hall of the Bulls, features animals of monumental size, some over 16 feet long, painted with a stunning sense of perspective and movement that feels utterly modern. To achieve this in the flickering, smoky light of animal fat lamps, while contorted on scaffolding made of wood and rope, required immense skill and intention. This was not casual doodling, it was a deliberate, sacred act. The artists often used the natural contours of the rock wall to give their paintings a three-dimensional quality, as if the beasts were emerging from the stone itself. This interaction between the art and the cave's geology creates a powerful, immersive experience, blurring the line between the painted image and the living rock, suggesting a belief that the cave wall was not a barrier but a membrane. This idea of the wall as a membrane is central to the more speculative interpretations of Lascaux. Scattered among the realistic animals is a repertoire of abstract signs that are far more puzzling than the fauna. There are grids of dots, rows of parallel lines, checkerboard patterns, and most intriguingly, crisscrossing lines that many researchers call aviforms for their vague, bird-like shape. Orthodox archaeology interprets these as counting systems, territorial markers, or shamanic symbols. However, to a modern eye, these abstract forms bear a striking and unsettling resemblance to the kind of geometric patterns and grids that people consistently report during profound, altered states of consciousness induced by deep meditation, sensory deprivation, or the use of entheogenic plants. These experiences, often described as breaking through into a luminous, geometric reality, are common across diverse cultures and are frequently interpreted as journeys into other dimensions. The persistent presence of these specific symbols at Lascaux raises a tantalizing question. Were the cave painters using these tunnels as a sensory deprivation chamber, a natural isolation tank to induce trance states, and then mapping the geometric landscapes they visited onto the walls? This theory is powerfully supported by the work of researchers like author and journalist Graham Hancock, who proposes that ancient shamanic rituals involving natural psychedelics were a gateway to non-ordinary reality. In this view, the cave was not merely a gallery but a fully functional portal room. The shaman would descend into the profound darkness and silence, an environment that alone can trigger visionary states. They might then use substances derived from local plants or fungi to further propel their consciousness across the threshold. The act of painting was not just recording a vision, it was an act of power, a way of fixing the portal's coordinates onto the stone, of making the intangible tangible. The animals themselves might not be literal prey, but spirit guides or power animals encountered in these trance journeys, their energy summoned and captured on the wall to assist the community. The famous falling man, or birdman, figure in the shaft of the dead man, seen a rare humanoid depiction with a bird's head and an erect phallus, lying before a wounded bison, is often cited as a direct representation of the shaman himself in a state of ecstatic trance, his consciousness having left his physical body to travel to the spirit world. The most compelling evidence for Lascaux as a potential portal site may not be historical or anthropological, but experiential. Modern visitors and caretakers, even those who are staunch skeptics, have reported strange phenomena within the cave complex. The most common account is a pervasive and unnatural silence, a stillness so deep it feels auditory, as if all sound is being absorbed by the ancient stone. Others speak of sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature in specific chambers, and a palpable feeling of being watched by an unseen presence. There are even reports from the early explorers of feeling a subtle vibrational hum through the rock, a sensation that has been linked in other global sites to telluric earth energies. While the original Lascaux cave is now closed to the public to preserve its fragile art, these persistent anecdotes from those who have spent time inside suggest that the energy that inspired its creation millennia ago may still linger, a faint echo of the rituals that once sought to use this dark, sacred space as a doorway between the world of the living and the boundless realms of the spirit. Journeying from the painted depths of Lascaux, we now cross continents to the sun-drenched highlands of southern Africa, where the air is thick with the scent of history and the whispers of a lost kingdom. Here, shrouded in the grassy landscapes of modern-day Zimbabwe, stand the magnificent and mysterious ruins of Great Zimbabwe. This sprawling complex of stone walls, towers, and enclosures is the largest ancient structure south of the Sahara, a monument to a powerful African civilization that mastered architecture and trade long before European contact. Yet, despite its grandeur, the true origins of Great Zimbabwe were once fiercely contested by colonial powers who refused to believe indigenous Africans capable of such a feat, preferring instead to attribute it to mythical figures like King Solomon or the Queen of Sheba. We now know, of course, that it was the ancestral Shona people who built this stone city between the 11th and 15th centuries. But while the builders are no longer a mystery, the purpose behind the most enigmatic structures within the complex continues to spark theories that reach for the stars. The architecture itself is the first testament to a sophisticated and unique building tradition. The structures are composed of millions of granite blocks, meticulously cut and stacked without mortar to form walls that curve and flow with the natural landscape, some soaring over 30 feet high. The most iconic feature is the Great Enclosure, a massive oval wall that contains a mysterious conical tower. This tower, solid all the way through, has baffled archaeologists for generations. It serves no apparent defensive or practical purpose. It doesn't support a roof, it isn't a lookout post, and it isn't hollow for storage. Its sheer, imposing presence suggests a function that was deeply symbolic, perhaps even spiritual. The entire complex is also meticulously aligned with celestial bodies, particularly the moon and certain bright stars, which were critically important to the agricultural and ritual cycles of the Shona people. This celestial connection, a theme we've seen across the globe, implies that Great Zimbabwe was designed as more than a royal residence or a trading hub. It was a place where the earthly and the cosmic were intentionally interwoven. This idea is powerfully reinforced by the rich oral traditions of the Shona people, which have been passed down through countless generations. They know the site as Zimbabwe, meaning Great House of Stone, or more significantly, venerated houses. According to these traditions, Great Zimbabwe was the sacred seat of power for the Manhumutapa Empire, a place where the king, who was also the high priest, would commune with the creator god Mweri. The most sacred rituals were performed within the hill complex, the oldest part of the site, which sits atop a granite dome overlooking the entire valley. It is here that local elders and spirit mediums, known as Masfikiro, believe the veil between the physical world and the spiritual realm of the ancestors is at its absolute thinnest. These are not vague legends, they are a living spiritual history that describes the site as a potent conduit for communication, a place where prayers and offerings could be directly transmitted to the divine. This ancient belief in the site's role as a spiritual conduit forms the foundation for the more extraordinary theories about its purpose. Some researchers and enthusiasts, drawing parallels to sites like Göbekli Tepe and Tiwanaku, suggest that the precise stonework and celestial alignments were not just for ceremony, but for harnessing a specific kind of energy. The unusual solid tower within the great enclosure is often at the center of these speculations. Could it have acted as a kind of energy antenna or a resonator, designed to amplify spiritual energy or even to open a temporary portal for the ancestors to pass through and offer guidance? The curved walls, which create unique acoustic properties, might have been designed to focus sound and energy toward this central point during rituals, creating a vibrational frequency that facilitated altered states of consciousness for the participating shamans and priests. The most captivating theory connects Great Zimbabwe to the same interstellar speculation that surrounds other ancient mysteries. The sophistication of its construction and its sudden rise as a major power center have led some to wonder if the Shona people received outside assistance. Proponents of this idea point to the fact that Great Zimbabwe was the heart of a vast trade network that reached all the way to China and the Middle East. Could this exchange have been more than just material goods? Could it have included advanced astronomical or architectural knowledge from a source not of this world? Local folklore adds an intriguing layer, with some stories speaking of the first rulers descending from the heavens. These tales, combined with the site's undeniable power, fuel the idea that Great Zimbabwe was not just a city for living, but a designated landing point or communication hub for advanced beings, with its strange, solid tower serving as a beacon or a receiver. Whether viewed as a sacred meeting place with ancestral spirits or something even more profound, the Great Stone Ruins stand as a powerful African testament to humanity's eternal desire to connect with something greater than itself. Now we plunge from the ancient stone cities of Africa into the deep, cerulean waters off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, to a discovery that continues to ignite fierce debate among geologists, archaeologists, and alternative historians alike. This is the Yonaguni Monument, a massive, enigmatic underwater formation that some believe could be the ruins of a sunken city from a forgotten age, a place that might have once held the keys to realities beyond our own. Discovered by a diver in 1986, the site lies about 80 feet below the surface, a sprawling complex of monolithic terraces, sharp right angles, and towering pillars that look unnervingly like a grand plaza or a ceremonial stage carved by human hands. The central question is as profound as the ocean that conceals it. Are we looking at a miraculous geological quirk or the drowned architecture of a lost civilization, perhaps even one with knowledge we have yet to imagine? The visual evidence for a man-made origin is immediately striking. The main structure, often called the monument, features massive, clean-cut terraces with near-perfect 90-degree angles. There are what appear to be wide staircases with uniform steps leading to a central platform. Two towering rock pillars, each over 20 feet tall, stand parallel to each other, looking for all the world like the supporting posts of a giant gateway. Perhaps most compelling is the turtle, a specific formation that eerily resembles a massive stone statue of the revered animal, complete with a defined head and a carved shell. For proponents like the late Professor Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist who dedicated his life to studying the site, these features are far too precise and repetitive to be the work of random natural erosion. He pointed to what he identified as tool marks on the stone, quarrying scars, and even what looked like a carved bas-relief of an animal. His conclusion was that Yonaguni is the remnant of a city that sank during a catastrophic seismic event, possibly linked to the ancient legend of a lost Pacific continent. Mainstream geology, however, offers a compelling counter-argument. They point to the fact that the entire structure is composed of sandstone and mudstone, a type of rock that is naturally prone to fracturing along straight lines and planes due to its sedimentary layers. The powerful currents in the area, along with seismic activity that frequently shakes the region, could have naturally sheared the rock into these seemingly artificial formations through a process known as both sheet jointing and tidal weathering. Skeptics argue that the staircases are simply exposed bedding planes. The carvings are nothing more than opportunistic erosion by mollusks, and the entire structure is a magnificent but entirely natural geological formation. The human brain, they say, is hardwired to see patterns and faces in random shapes, a phenomenon known as pareidolia, and that is precisely what is happening at Yonaguni. It is a beautiful illusion, a trick of the mind and the sea. Yet, this rational explanation cannot entirely dismiss the strange experiences reported by those who have dived there. Many seasoned divers, including scientists who initially approached the site with skepticism, describe an uncanny feeling that is difficult to articulate. They speak of the overwhelming silence being different from other dive sites, a silence that feels intentional, almost reverent. The sheer scale and apparent order of the formations create a disorienting sense of being in a place that was designed, a feeling that persists even when trying to accept the natural explanation. Some report unusual sensations, from sudden, inexplicable pressure, changes in their ears, to feelings of profound anxiety or elation when swimming through specific archways or over the vast terraces. A handful have even recounted brief moments of vertigo or visual distortion, as if the water itself was shimmering with a different energy around the monument's core. These anecdotes are not scientific proof, but their consistency adds a layer of high strangeness that fuels the more speculative theories. It is this persistent sense of the uncanny that gives rise to the most fascinating idea about Yonaguni, that if it is indeed man-made, it could represent a civilization far more advanced than we've credited. The local Ryukyuan folklore of the region is rich with tales of a golden age and a great flood that swallowed ancient lands. Some researchers have connected these stories to the broader Pacific myth of Mu or Lemuria, hypothetical lost continents said to have possessed technology and spiritual knowledge far surpassing our own. In this context, Yonaguni transforms from a mere sunken city into a potential power center. What if these perfectly carved channels and platforms were not just for ceremony, but were part of a sophisticated system for harnessing telluric or oceanic energy? The site's location atop powerful tectonic faults and its constant exposure to strong currents could make it a natural energy vortex. Could the monument have been a machine, a generator that used this natural power to stabilize a dimensional gateway, a technology that was lost when the continent sank beneath the waves? The eerie experiences of divers could then be interpreted as the faint, residual echo of this dormant technology, an energy signature that still lingers around the stones, affecting those who swim into its field. Whether a natural marvel, a drowned city, or something even more profound, the Yonaguni monument remains one of the ocean's greatest secrets, a silent stone question lying in the deep, waiting for us to finally understand its language. Shifting our focus from the sunken enigmas of the Pacific, we now travel to the windswept coast of Brittany in northwestern France, where another megalithic marvel awaits. Here, in the small village of Karnak, lies the largest collection of standing stones in the world. Unlike the solitary grandeur of Stonehenge, the Karnak alignments are a sprawling, awe-inspiring army of monoliths, with nearly 3,000 individual stones arranged in long, parallel rows that stretch for miles across the countryside. These megaliths, erected over 6,000 years ago, present a spectacle of such scale and deliberate order that it feels less like a monument and more like a vast, silent machine whose purpose has been lost to the ages. While archaeologists suggest they were territorial markers or complex calendars, the sheer ambition of their design and the persistent energy felt their point to a function that might be far more profound. The precision of the alignments is the first clue that there is more to this story than simple land division. The stones are organized into three primary groups: Manek, Kamario, and Kaleskan, each consisting of rows that run perfectly straight for astonishing distances, with some lines containing over 1,000 stones placed at meticulously regular intervals. The stones themselves are not uniform. They gradually decrease in size along the rows, creating a powerful sense of perspective and direction, as if guiding the eye or something else toward a specific point. Many of the larger menhirs, some weighing several tons, are positioned with their flattest sides facing the same direction, suggesting an intentional orientation that could be related to solar or lunar pathways. This isn't haphazard placement. It is a landscape-scale project that required generational planning and a sophisticated understanding of geometry and astronomy, all achieved by a society we know very little about. This architectural genius is deeply intertwined with local Breton folklore, which has always viewed the stones as something magical and otherworldly. One of the most enduring legends tells of the sorcerer Merlin, who turned an entire Roman legion to stone as they marched across the countryside, freezing them in place for all eternity. Another tale speaks of the Corrigans, mischievous fairy-like creatures of Breton mythology, who are said to dance around the stones at night and guard hidden treasures beneath them. Most significantly, the legends often describe the alignments as a sacred pathway or a conduit. It was believed that during certain times of the year, like the solstices or equinoxes, the stones would become active, their energy allowing for communication with the other world, the Celtic realm of deities, spirits, and ancestors. This wasn't just a spooky story. It was a functional belief that the stones were a thin place, a permanent gateway between the worlds that could be activated by those who knew how. This ancient belief finds a compelling echo in the work of modern paranormal investigators and researchers who have taken these legends seriously. Using specialized equipment, teams have detected persistent and unusual electromagnetic anomalies around the stones, with meters spiking erratically in specific areas, particularly at the ends of the rows and around the larger, solitary dolmens that dot the site. These EM spikes do not correlate with any known underground power lines or geological faults, suggesting the energy is intrinsic to the stones themselves or their arrangement. Furthermore, dowsers and sensitives who have walked the alignments frequently report intense physical sensations, tingling in the hands, a palpable pressure in the air, and a feeling of being pulled along by an invisible current. Many visitors, even those without any prior belief in such phenomena, report similar experiences of disorientation, sudden emotional shifts, or the distinct impression of being watched from within the forest of stone. Could the Karnak alignments have been designed as a massive energy conduit? This theory proposes that the rows acted like a circuit, channeling telluric earth energy from the surrounding landscape toward a central point, much like a lens focuses light. The careful grading of the stone sizes might have been a method of tuning or amplifying this energy flow. Some researchers suggest this harnessed power could have been used for healing, for enhancing agricultural fertility, or for facilitating shamanic journeying. A more extraordinary interpretation posits that the entire complex was a stargate, a stable, permanent portal calibrated to specific celestial alignments. The straight, processional nature of the rows might have served as a runway or a focusing array for interdimensional travel, with the energy building along its length to open a vortex at its terminus. Whether as a spiritual battery or a literal gateway, the silent, imposing rows of Karnak stand as a breathtaking testament to a prehistoric world that viewed the landscape not as a passive resource, but as a living, energetic partner in humanity's quest to reach beyond the visible. These legends of a subterranean world find a fascinating, if contentious, parallel in the exploratory findings of various adventurers and researchers over the centuries. While much of this remains in the realm of anecdote, the stories are remarkably consistent. Early European missionaries and explorers wrote of being shown entrances to these tunnels by islanders, often concealed by cleverly positioned rocks or vegetation. One of the most famous accounts comes from the 19th century, when a French missionary reportedly descended into a system of caves and found himself in a vast, illuminated chamber filled with strange hieroglyphs unknown to surface culture. More recently, in the 1980s, a team of cavers led by a French archaeologist explored a complex known as Ana Kekunga, or Two Windows Cave, which tunnels deep underground before opening up to a pair of dramatic sea-facing openings. While this is a known lava tube, its existence fuels belief in a wider, more intricate network. Indigenous accounts often speak of these tunnels being lined with smooth, almost polished stone, unlike the island's natural volcanic rock, suggesting they might have been modified or even constructed by ancient hands. These are not just caves. In the oral history, they are described as Ona Kai Tangata, a term that translates to caves for the people to eat in, but is also deeply tied to the concept of a refuge, a place of safety and hidden knowledge. The most compelling theories about these tunnels push beyond the idea of mere physical shelters. Many Rapa Nui elders and modern researchers into the island's esoteric history propose that the labyrinth was not just a hiding place from conflict or the elements, but a spiritual and interdimensional highway. They suggest that the island's powerful energy vortex, which some believe is focused around the quarry at Rono-Roroku, extends deep into the earth through these channels. Specific tunnels are said to be aligned with particular stars or celestial events, and certain chambers were used for rituals designed to facilitate communication with the Akiwaku, or ancestor spirits. In this view, a shaman could enter a tunnel at one point and, through a combination of meditation, chant, and the innate energy of the place, potentially access a different vibrational frequency or even a parallel dimension. The moai standing guard above ground, then, were not just protecting a physical entrance. They were acting as stabilizers for this volatile spiritual energy, their immense mana ensuring that whatever doorways were opened deep below could also be safely closed. The legends caution that not all who entered these tunnels returned, and those who did were often changed, speaking of cities of light and beings of pure energy that existed in the world beneath the world. Whether these experiences were visionary trances induced by the absolute darkness and isolation or something more literal, they form a core part of the island's mystical identity, painting a picture of Rapa Nui not as an isolated rock, but as a humming switchboard connecting multiple layers of reality. Yet to fully grasp the Great Pyramid's potential as a gateway, we must venture into its very heart, into the cold, austere precision of the King's Chamber. This room, built from massive blocks of red granite and accessible only by passing through the Grand Gallery, feels profoundly different from any other part of the structure. It is not a place meant for crowds or ceremony. Its atmosphere is one of intense, focused isolation. While it is famously empty, save for a solitary, lidless sarcophagus made from a single block of the same hard stone, the chamber itself may be the true artifact, a sophisticated device whose function we are only beginning to perceive through the lens of modern science. The first clue lies in the chamber's astounding construction and its bizarre acoustic properties. The entire room is built with granite, a stone rich in quartz crystals, which are known for their piezoelectric properties, meaning they can generate an electrical charge under mechanical stress. The sheer weight of the pyramid above creates immense, constant pressure on these stones, potentially turning the entire chamber into a natural energy generator. Furthermore, the room's dimensions create a powerful sonic resonance. Scientists conducting acoustic tests have discovered the chamber resonates at a fundamental frequency close to the natural vibration of the Earth itself, a deep hum that would have been perceptible during ancient rituals. This isn't just an echo chamber. It feels engineered, designed to amplify specific sound frequencies that could alter human brainwave patterns, perhaps to induce the trance states necessary for spiritual travel or interdimensional communication. This idea of the chamber as a resonant cavity is bolstered by strange energy readings that have perplexed researchers. Experiments, including a 2018 study published in the Journal of Applied Physics, found that the Great Pyramid can concentrate electromagnetic energy in its internal chambers and under its base. The King's Chamber appears to be a major focal point for this phenomenon. Visitors and researchers equipped with electromagnetic field meters have reported sudden, unexplained spikes in readings, with needles swinging wildly for no discernible reason before settling back to normal. These fluctuations are not random. They often correlate with anecdotes from people who describe sudden dizziness, a metallic taste in their mouth, or an overwhelming sense of temporal dislocation, as if the very flow of time within the room was briefly stuttering or shifting. Some of the most compelling accounts from modern visitors involve these brief but terrifying time slips. There are numerous independent reports from tourists and Egyptologists alike who describe a sudden sensation of the room's dimensions warping, of hearing faint, echoing voices chanting in an unknown language, or seeing fleeting, shadowy figures dressed in archaic garments that vanish when directly observed. One of the most common experiences is a severe malfunction of electronic equipment. Cameras fail to capture clear images despite perfect settings. Battery drains are instantaneous, and watch mechanisms inexplicably stop or run hours fast or slow. While skeptics attribute this to the chamber's oppressive atmosphere and powerful suggestibility, the consistency of these technical failures suggests an active, energetic property of the room that interferes with modern technology, a property that might have been the intended feature of its original design. When we re-examine the pyramid text through this lens, the function of the King's Chamber becomes staggeringly clear. These ancient incantations, meant to be spoken aloud, are filled with references to the pharaoh's transformation and ascension. They speak of the king flying up to the sky, of becoming a star, and of passing through the secret portals of the sky. The resonant properties of the granite chamber would have amplified the recitation of these texts, the sound waves vibrating through the quartz-rich stone and through the body of the initiate lying within the sarcophagus. This was not a burial ritual, it was a launch sequence. The chamber, in this interpretation, was a machine designed to use sound and focused electromagnetic energy to vibrate the spiritual body of the pharaoh at a frequency high enough to break its bonds with the physical plane, projecting his consciousness through what the texts describe as the Akit, the horizon, the gateway between the world of the living and the realm of the gods. The King's Chamber, therefore, may be one of the most sophisticated devices ever built by an ancient civilization, not for moving physical objects through space, but for moving consciousness across the ultimate frontier. This peculiar phenomenon of electronic fog is not just a blanket term for bad weather, but a specific and terrifyingly consistent experience reported by those who have ventured into the triangle and lived to tell the tale. Perhaps the most chilling and detailed account comes from pilot Bruce Jernon, who experienced what he would later call the electronic fog during a flight from the Bahamas to Florida in December of 1970. Jernon and his father were flying through a typical, albeit large, cumulus cloud when it began to behave in ways that defied all known meteorology. The cloud's tunnel-like opening began to rotate around his aircraft, and as he flew through it, the tunnel walls themselves started to spin, creating a terrifying vortex. His compasses spun wildly, and his other electronic navigation equipment completely failed. A strange, dull gray glow filled the cockpit, and he reported a sensation of weightlessness and extreme static electricity. Most astonishing of all, what should have been a 75-minute flight took only 47 minutes. Upon landing, Jernon discovered his aircraft's chronometer was also behind, corroborating his experience of lost time, a hallmark of many high strangeness encounters within the zone. Jernon's experience is far from unique. Sailors have recounted similar tales of suddenly entering a silent, oppressive bank of fog that appears out of a clear blue sky. In these instances, the ocean's surface becomes preternaturally calm, like glass, and the fog seems to absorb all sound, creating an eerie, suffocating silence. Radios descend into unintelligible static, and magnetic compasses become useless, spinning without purpose. Those who have endured this speak of a profound sense of disorientation, not just geographically, but temporally as well, often unable to judge whether minutes or hours have passed while inside the mist. These consistent reports across decades from both aviators and mariners suggest a phenomenon that is repeatable and tied to the specific geographic and energetic properties of the Bermuda Triangle. It's a pattern that moves the discussion beyond simple coincidence and into the realm of a measurable, albeit bizarre, environmental anomaly. So what could this electronic fog actually be? One compelling scientific theory points to the region's unique potential for generating massive methane hydrates. As we mentioned, these frozen pockets of gas on the ocean floor can erupt, but the effect might be more complex than just sinking ships. A large-scale methane release could theoretically create a highly ionized cloud of gas above the ocean's surface. This ionized cloud, or plasma, would be an excellent conductor of electricity and could severely disrupt electromagnetic equipment, causing the exact compass and radio failures so commonly reported. The charged particles in this cloud could also refract light in unusual ways, creating that eerie, glowing fog. Furthermore, such a dense, ionized atmosphere might have the potential to alter human perception, potentially explaining the feelings of disorientation and the reported loss of time experienced by those caught within it. In this view, the electronic fog is a rare but natural atmospheric event, a perfect storm of geological and meteorological conditions that creates a temporary zone of sensory and technological chaos. A more speculative yet fascinating theory proposes that this fog is not a product of the environment, but a symptom of something far more profound, a thinning of the dimensional veil. Proponents of this idea suggest that the Bermuda Triangle sits atop a natural vortex or a permanent weakness in the fabric of space-time. The electronic fog, in this context, is the visible and tactile manifestation of this interdimensional boundary. The bizarre electromagnetic effects are seen as the energy of two different realities briefly interacting and interfering with one another. The loss of time could be explained by the different flow rates of time between these dimensions. A few minutes in our world might pass in an instant in another, or vice versa. This would account for the many reports of pilots arriving at their destinations far earlier than should be physically possible, as if they had somehow slipped through a cosmic shortcut. The fog, then, is not just a cloud, but the very threshold of a portal, a localized area where the laws of physics as we understand them are temporarily rewritten by the influence of another dimension. Whether a natural meteorological weapon or a glimpse into the multiverse, the electronic fog remains one of the most persistent and unsettling mysteries of the deep. Towering above the ancient Inca capital of Cusco, the monumental fortress of Sacsayhuaman commands the landscape with a presence that is both imposing and deeply mysterious. This is not a structure of delicate arches or ornate carvings. It is a masterpiece of raw, staggering power and impossible precision. Built from colossal limestone blocks, some weighing over 120 tons, the zigzagging walls of Sacsayhuaman are a spectacle that has bewildered historians and engineers for centuries. The sheer scale is astounding, but it is the mind-bending masonry that truly defies belief. Each enormous stone is intricately carved with multiple complex angles and curves, fitting against its neighbors with a seamlessness that is flawless. You cannot slide a single piece of paper, let alone a razor blade, between these giant blocks. This technique, known as polygonal masonry, creates a jigsaw puzzle of monumental proportions, one that has withstood devastating earthquakes for over 600 years while Spanish colonial buildings erected atop its foundations have crumbled. The official narrative attributes this feat to the Inca, and while they were undoubtedly master stonemasons, the methods used to achieve this otherworldly perfection remain utterly lost. How did they quarry, transport, and shape these behemoths with only stone hammers and bronze tools? How did they achieve such mathematical precision without a written language or the wheel? The gaps in our understanding are as vast as the stones themselves, opening the door to theories that this fortress was built not just to repel human armies, but to guard against forces far more extraordinary. The most captivating local legends speak directly to this otherworldly purpose. Andean oral history tells that Sacsayhuaman was not built by the Inca alone, but with the help of the Ñaupa Machu, a race of ancient giants or divine beings who possessed advanced knowledge and technology. These beings, it is said, could soften stone using a mysterious plant juice, molding the rock like clay and allowing them to fit the blocks together with supernatural ease. This legend of softening stone is a recurring theme at several impossible megalithic sites across Peru, suggesting a shared cultural memory of a lost building technique that borders on alchemy. Furthermore, the site's original name is believed to have been Sacsayhuaman, which in the Quechua language translates to satisfied falcon, but some linguists and local shamans offer an alternative and more ominous interpretation: place where the earth is satisfied, or more figuratively, the place where the earth is fed. This cryptic name hints at a function beyond defense, suggesting the site was a place of energetic exchange, a conduit where the earth itself was nourished by celestial or interdimensional forces. This idea of Sacsayhuaman as an energy stabilizer is central to the more speculative theories about its three-tiered, zigzagging walls. Their unique shape is highly unusual for a defensive structure. While the angles could provide strategic defensive positions, their form is incredibly inefficient compared to a straight wall. This has led researchers to propose that the design was primarily geomantic. The fortress sits atop a powerful natural telluric energy vortex, a point where the Earth's magnetic field is particularly strong. The zigzag pattern, with its sharp, repeating angles, may have been specifically engineered to harness, ground, or stabilize this potent energy. Think of it not as a wall, but as a massive circuit board or a lightning rod for planetary forces. The perfect interlocking fit of the stones would be essential for this function, creating a continuous and unbroken conduit for energy flow without any leakage or resistance. In this view, the primary purpose of Sacsayhuaman was not to keep invaders out, but to contain and manage the powerful and potentially volatile forces emerging from the Earth itself. This leads to the most thrilling theory of all, that Sacsayhuaman was built as a dimensional stabilizer. Proponents suggest the site sits atop a natural rift or a weak point in the fabric of space-time, a place where the barrier between our world and other dimensions is naturally thin and unstable. The fortress, with its incredibly precise and heavy stonework, was constructed to act as a cosmic anchor, its immense weight and perfect geometry designed to seal this rift shut and prevent unwanted intrusions from whatever might exist on the other side. The zigzag walls could function as a kind of energy damping system, absorbing and neutralizing any disruptive frequencies that emanated from the gateway. The experiences of modern visitors add a compelling layer to this idea. Many report strange sensations within the fortress grounds, sudden dizziness, a palpable pressure in the air, and feelings of intense anxiety or peace that seem to emanate from the stones themselves. Electronic devices frequently malfunction, with cameras failing to capture clear images and batteries draining at an accelerated rate, as if the site's dormant energy is still actively interfering with modern technology. Whether a shield against otherworldly invasions, a giant battery for earthly energy, or simply an impenetrable fortress, Sacsayhuaman stands as a silent stone sentinel, its true purpose locked within the perfect seams of its impossible walls. Now we descend from the sunlit Andean heights into the cool, silent darkness of a very different kind of sanctuary, one that feels less like a building and more like a doorway carved directly into the earth itself. Located on the Mediterranean island of Malta, the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is a sprawling, multi-level underground necropolis, a labyrinth of chambers and halls hewn from the living limestone over 5,000 years ago. This is not a natural cave system. It is a meticulously engineered subterranean complex, a mirror image of the megalithic temples that stand above ground on Malta. Discovered by accident in 1902, the hypogeum is a place of profound silence and shadow, where the air itself feels ancient and heavy. But for all its function as a burial place holding the remains of an estimated 7,000 people, the true purpose of this deep, dark warren may extend far beyond the realm of the dead, into something that touches the very fabric of reality. The clues to this incredible possibility are not just in the carvings on the walls, but in the very sound of the space itself. The most immediately striking feature of the hypogeum is its otherworldly acoustics. This is not a simple echo chamber. The entire complex appears to have been designed as a sophisticated resonator. Specific chambers, particularly the famous Oracle Room, possess acoustic properties so precise and powerful that they defy simple explanation. A deep male voice speaking or chanting at a certain frequency in this room creates a resonance that vibrates through the entire body, a sensation that is both physical and deeply psychological. The sound doesn't just echo, it amplifies and sustains, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, filling the small space with an overwhelming presence. Scientific analysis has shown that the chamber resonates at a fundamental frequency of 110 Hz, a specific vibration that neuroscientists have linked to altered states of human consciousness. At this frequency, brainwave patterns can shift, potentially reducing the activity of the brain's language center and heightening activity in areas related to emotion, imagery, and spiritual experience. This isn't an acoustic quirk. It feels like a deliberate technological achievement, an ancient tool for transcending ordinary perception. This sonic architecture is complemented by carvings and art that seem to hint at its purpose. The walls of the hypogeum are adorned with spirals and red ochre paintings, motifs that are common in prehistoric sites associated with ritual and trance states. But the most compelling visual clue is in the Oracle Room itself, where a small, niche-like alcove is carved into the wall. When sound is produced into this niche, the effect is magnified and distorted, creating a bizarre, disembodied effect that would have been absolutely terrifying to a prehistoric mind. It's easy to imagine a priest or shaman standing in this room, their voice transformed into something that was no longer human, a booming, omnipotent sound that seemed to emanate from the stone itself, from the earth, or from another world entirely. The combination of the resonant frequency and this speaking tube would have been a powerful piece of psychological theater, convincing all those present that they were indeed in the presence of the divine or the disembodied. It is this potent mix of sound and suggestion that gives rise to the theory that the hypogeum was far more than a tomb. Many researchers believe it was a massive sensory deprivation chamber, an underground temple designed specifically for facilitating communication with other realms. The total absence of natural light, the constant temperature, and the profound silence broken only by carefully controlled ritual chanting would have been ideal conditions for inducing deep trance states. In this altered consciousness, participants might have believed they were traveling to the land of the ancestors, receiving prophecies, or making contact with interdimensional entities. The hypogeum, in this view, was not a place for the dead to rest, but a machine for the living to reach across the veil. These ancient intentions seem to have left a lasting imprint on the space, one that is still palpable to modern visitors. Even today, with electric lighting and guided tours, people report intense and unsettling experiences within the hypogeum's depths. The most common complaint is a powerful and sudden feeling of disorientation and claustrophobia, a sense of being lost in a maze with no center, despite the relatively small size of the complex. Others speak of an overwhelming urge to leave, a primal fear that seems to rise from the stones themselves. More chilling are the persistent reports of auditory phenomena that go beyond the explained acoustics. Visitors and staff have reported hearing faint, whisper-like voices just on the edge of hearing, soft murmurs that seem to come from empty passages or sealed chambers. Some have described the sound of a large crowd of people chanting or sighing from deep within the earth, a ghostly echo of the rituals that might have once taken place there. These experiences suggest that the hypogeum is not an inert archaeological site, but a place that still retains a powerful and sometimes unnerving energetic charge, a permanent thin spot where the past and the present, the living and the dead, feel uncomfortably close. But our journey into the impossible does not end with ancient temples and lost civilizations. In the humid, sun-drenched landscape of Homestead, Florida, stands a monument to one man's enigmatic genius that feels utterly out of place in the modern world. This is the Coral Castle, a sprawling complex of massive stone sculptures and megalithic structures, all carved from over 1,000 tons of oolite limestone. Its creation is the stuff of legend, for it was built entirely by one man, a frail, 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant named Edward Leedskalnin. From 1923 to 1951, working almost exclusively at night and shrouding his methods in secrecy, Leedskalnin single-handedly quarried, shaped, transported, and erected these colossal stones. The central, baffling question is how. How did a man with a 4th-grade education and no modern machinery achieve a feat that would challenge a team of engineers with today's technology? His own cryptic explanation was that he had simply rediscovered the building secrets of the ancient pyramids. The sheer scale of his accomplishment is staggering. The compound features a 9-ton gate that is so perfectly balanced on a simple automobile gear that a child could push it open with a single finger. Yet it was so precisely engineered that it took a team of engineers with heavy machinery 15 years after his death to figure out how it worked and get it rehung after it had fallen out of alignment. There is a 22-ton obelisk, a 23-ton crescent moon, and countless multi-ton rocking chairs and tables, all carved from solid rock. Witnesses reported seeing Leedskalnin work, but their accounts only deepened the mystery. They said he would simply place a simple tripod of logs over a block, attach a chain or some old car parts and hum. The massive stone would then, according to them, seemingly float into the air as if it were as light as a balloon. He never allowed anyone to watch the actual process of moving the stones, leading to rampant speculation that he had discovered some form of anti-gravity or had mastered the ability to manipulate magnetic fields. This speculation is fueled by Leedskalnin's own writings and the strange artifacts he left behind. He was deeply obsessed with magnetism and electricity, filling his self-published pamphlets with crude but insightful diagrams and theories about the nature of cosmic forces. He claimed that all matter was simply individual magnets acting in concert, and that by understanding their polarity, one could control weight and mass. Within his small living quarters at the site, investigators found a crude electrical device built from old car parts and radio equipment, which some believe was a prototype for an anti-gravity generator. He also repeatedly stated that he knew the secret of the pyramids, insisting it was not brute force but a fundamental understanding of the laws of the universe that allowed them to be built. For Leedskalnin, the coral castle was not just a sculpture garden, it was a practical demonstration of lost physics. The site itself seems to support this idea, as it is a well-documented hotspot for strange electromagnetic anomalies. Visitors and researchers for decades have reported compass needles spinning erratically or pointing in the wrong direction when brought near certain stones. Certain areas of the castle are known to cause digital watches to stop, camera batteries to drain inexplicably, and cell phone signals to drop out entirely. These persistent effects have led to the theory that the castle's arrangement is not arbitrary. Some researchers propose that Leedskalnin positioned the massive stones with intentional geometric precision, creating a large-scale energy grid or a stable harmonic resonance. In this view, the entire complex functions like a tuned circuit, amplifying natural telluric energies and creating a localized field where the effects of gravity are diminished. This leads to the most extraordinary possibility that the coral castle is more than a demonstration of physics. It is a functional, albeit dormant, device. The most prominent theory suggests it was built as a stable, permanent gateway. Proponents point to the numerous archways and door-like structures throughout the complex, particularly the famous gate that once moved with such effortless grace. They argue these are not merely decorative but represent literal thresholds. The specific magnetic and energetic properties of the site could theoretically create a standing wave or a vortex, stabilizing a point where the fabric of spacetime is thin enough to permit passage. Leedskalnin's own story adds a poignant layer to this idea. He claimed he built the entire castle for his lost love, a 16-year-old girl named Agnes Scuffs who jilted him one day before their wedding in Latvia. Some interpret this not as a gesture of romantic folly, but as a desperate attempt to build something powerful enough to either bring her back or to allow him to travel to her across dimensions. Whether a testament to broken-hearted determination, a school of ancient knowledge, or an active dimensional anchor, the coral castle stands as a breathtaking modern mystery, a silent challenge from one man to the world, daring us to figure out how he did it. Deep beneath the arid, rocky landscape of Cappadocia in Turkey lies an engineering marvel that dwarfs all other subterranean mysteries. This is the Derinkuyu underground city, an immense labyrinth that plunges 18 stories deep into the volcanic rock, a complex capable of housing an estimated 20,000 people along with their livestock and supplies. Unlike a simple cave or tomb, Derinkuyu is a fully functional city, complete with living quarters, stables, churches, wineries, and even sophisticated systems for ventilation and water. While mainstream history posits it was built as a refuge from invading armies, the sheer scale and permanence of this underground world invites a more profound question. Were its ancient architects merely hiding from human enemies, or were they seeking shelter from something far more inexplicable that stalked the surface above? The logistical genius of Derinkuyu is the first clue that its purpose was of paramount importance. The city was carved from soft volcanic tuff, a material sturdy enough for excavation yet easy to work with primitive tools. Its design reveals an astonishing understanding of underground living. 52 massive ventilation shafts provided fresh air to even the deepest levels, while a network of corridors and chambers was organized with meticulous planning. Heavy, circular stone doors weighing up to half a ton could be rolled shut from the inside to seal each level independently, creating an impregnable defense. These doors feature a small hole in the center, which historians suggest was for spearing attackers, but which could also be interpreted as a peephole to see what or who was trying to get in. The effort required to create such a vast and secure complex suggests a threat so severe and persistent that an entire civilization chose to retreat from the sun for generations at a time. This leads us to the local legends and ancient texts that swirl around Cappadocia, stories that speak of a history far stranger than conventional warfare. The region's earliest known inhabitants, the Hittites, spoke of a terrifying race of subterranean beings known as the dragon men, or entities from the underworld. Later, early Christian communities who used Derinkuyu as a refuge brought their own apocalyptic lore, including tales of monstrous creatures and fallen angels. Perhaps the most compelling mythological thread comes from the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata, which describes a powerful race called the Nagas. These beings were said to be sophisticated but hostile entities that lived in vast, magnificent cities deep underground, emerging only to interact with or conflict with surface dwellers. Could Derinkuyu have been built as a fortified stronghold against incursions from such a legendary underworld civilization? The city's deep wells and carefully guarded water sources take on a new significance if the threat wasn't just other humans, but beings that also sought control of these vital resources from below. This idea of a hidden underworld connects to a broader and more speculative theory, that Derinkuyu is not just a shelter, but sits atop a network of tunnels that are themselves ancient portals. Throughout Turkey and across the planet, there are persistent myths of vast global tunnel systems like the legendary Agartha or the tunnels of the Hopi Indians ant people. These are described not just as physical passages, but as interdimensional conduits. Proponents of this theory suggest that certain geological areas, particularly those with unique volcanic or magnetic properties like Cappadocia, naturally exhibit thinner boundaries between dimensions. The ancient builders of Derinkuyu might have been acutely aware of this, constructing their city not just to hide from a threat, but to monitor and perhaps even control access to a portal located deep within the earth. The heavily guarded lower levels, which are often restricted to the public today, could have been designed to seal something in rather than just keep invaders out. The experiences of modern visitors and researchers add a chilling layer of credibility to these ancient fears. Many who descend into the deepest, oldest parts of Derinkuyu report an atmosphere that feels fundamentally different from the upper, more recently used levels. There is a profound, almost oppressive silence, broken only by the distant drip of water, which can induce intense feelings of disorientation and primal anxiety. More tangibly, electronic equipment often behaves erratically. Camera flashes refuse to fire, battery levels plummet unexpectedly, and compasses show slight but consistent deviations. These anomalies suggest the presence of unusual electromagnetic fields deep within the rock, a phenomenon often linked in paranormal research to areas where dimensional barriers are believed to be weak. It creates a compelling picture of a place that was chosen not just for its defensive potential, but for its innate, powerful energy, an energy that the builders may have both feared and sought to harness, creating a bastion of humanity in the dark, just a stone's throw away from the unknown. Nestled within the rugged, mist-shrouded highlands of northern Laos lies a landscape dotted with one of Southeast Asia's most enduring and haunting archaeological riddles. Known as the Plain of Jars, this vast area is scattered with thousands of immense stone vessels, some standing over 9 feet tall and weighing several tons, all carved from solid rock with a skill that seems to defy their ancient origins. These jars, some numbering in the thousands across dozens of sites, are arranged in mysterious clusters across the terrain, standing in silent, solemn groups as if waiting for a purpose that has long been forgotten. While archaeologists have dated their creation to the Iron Age, between 500 years before the Common Era and 500 years after, The true story of who made them, how they moved these colossal containers, and most importantly, why they were placed here remains one of the great unsolved puzzles of the ancient world. The jars themselves are often found partially buried or toppled, their open mouths facing the sky, creating an eerie and somber atmosphere that has fueled local legends and global speculation for centuries. Conventional archaeology offers a somber, if logical, explanation for the jars. Excavations around the sites have uncovered human remains, burial goods, and ceramics, leading many researchers to conclude they were funerary urns, used either to decompose bodies before secondary burial or to store the cremated ashes of the deceased. This theory is compelling given the sheer number of jars and their grouping across the landscape, suggesting a vast and highly organized necropolis. Yet, this practical explanation struggles to account for the immense variation in jar size, their precise and often remote placements, and the incredible effort required to quarry and transport them from mountainside sources miles away. If they were merely burial urns, why create some vessels large enough to hold a standing adult? Why place them in such specific and sometimes inaccessible locations across the plains? The logistical challenges alone hint at a purpose far more significant than simple interment, a function that was deeply woven into the spiritual worldview of their creators. It is within the rich tapestry of local Lao and Mon Khmer folklore that we find clues to a far more extraordinary purpose. The most enduring legend speaks of a race of giants who once inhabited the highlands. According to the tale, a powerful king named Kun Cheung, who was a giant himself, commanded the creation of the jars. After a great and victorious battle, he needed vast quantities of a traditional rice brew called Lao Lao to celebrate his triumph. The jars in this story were fermentation vessels built on a scale suitable for a race of giants. While this seems like a simple myth, the concept of giants and their immense vessels takes on a new light when viewed through a more speculative lens. Could the legend of giants be a cultural memory of a much taller or perhaps more advanced people? Or could the term giant be a metaphor for beings of great power, perhaps even interdimensional entities whose scale of existence was beyond human comprehension? This narrative transforms the jars from mundane objects into artifacts of a mythic age. Another local belief, passed down through generations, imbues the jars with a deeply spiritual function. Some indigenous traditions hold that the jars were not for holding physical substances, but for capturing spirits. It was believed that the jars acted as traps or containers for restless souls, malevolent spirits, or even benevolent deities, using their stone forms to anchor these entities to a specific place in the physical world. This practice of spirit capture was often performed by powerful shamans during elaborate rituals designed to heal the land or protect a community. The shaman would call a spirit into a jar, sealing it within with powerful incantations. The most captivating version of this ritual suggests the process worked in reverse, that the jars were not prisons but gateways. During specific celestial alignments or through the use of sound and chant, a shaman could use the jar as a focal point to open a temporary portal, allowing a spirit to pass from our world into the afterlife or another dimension, or to call a spirit forth to offer wisdom or power. The open mouth of the jar facing the heavens becomes a conduit rather than a container. This idea of the jars as spiritual conduits is powerfully supported by their physical placement and alignment. Many of the jars are situated on elevated ground, strategically positioned along natural ley lines or telluric energy pathways that crisscross the region. Their arrangement is rarely random. Some clusters form clear geometric patterns or align with significant astronomical events, such as the rising of certain stars or the solstice sun. This deliberate positioning suggests the jars were part of a large-scale geomantic design, a network of stone antennas designed to harness and amplify the Earth's natural energy. In this view, the entire plain of jars was not a cemetery, but a massive, open-air temple, a power plant for spiritual energy. The rituals performed here might have used this amplified energy to vibrate at a frequency high enough to temporarily thin the veil between dimensions, with each jar acting as a resonant chamber to stabilize the portal. The different sizes of the jars could have been tuned to different frequencies, each one designed to open a pathway to a specific realm or to communicate with a different order of being. The experiences of modern visitors and bomb clearance experts who have worked extensively in the region due to its tragic history with unexploded ordnance add a chilling, experiential layer to these ancient theories. The plains have an undeniable and palpable atmosphere, one that many describe as heavy, silent, and deeply melancholic. It is a feeling that goes beyond the knowledge of the area's more recent history as a battlefield. People frequently report strange auditory phenomena, particularly at dawn and dusk, a low, resonant hum that seems to emanate from the jars themselves, or the faint, echoing sound of distant, rhythmic chanting. Electronic equipment, including cameras and surveying tools, is known to malfunction unexpectedly near certain jar clusters, with batteries draining rapidly and compasses showing slight but persistent deviations. Some visitors have spoken of sudden, overwhelming emotional shifts, experiencing profound sorrow or inexplicable euphoria when touching the ancient stone. These persistent anecdotes suggest that the Plain of Jars, for all its silence, is not an inert archaeological site. It remains a place of potent, dormant energy, a silent testament to rituals that once sought to bridge the world of the living with the vast and unknown realms that lie beyond. Now we journey from the enigmatic plains of Laos to the sun-baked banks of the Indus River in modern-day Pakistan, to the ruins of a metropolis so advanced that its sudden demise has spawned one of archaeology's most controversial and spine-chilling theories. This is Mohenjo-Daro, the Mound of the Dead, one of the world's earliest major urban centers and a cornerstone of the mysterious Indus Valley civilization. Flourishing around 4,500 years ago, this city was a marvel of the ancient world, boasting a level of urban planning that would not be seen again for millennia. Its streets were laid out in a perfect grid system, complete with the world's first known municipal sanitation, a complex network of covered drains and sewers that served multi-story houses made of uniformly sized baked bricks. There were public baths, granaries, and a sophisticated water management system. But this pinnacle of ancient civilization met a sudden and catastrophic end, a collapse so complete and puzzling that it has led some researchers to propose a terrifying and extraordinary cause, an ancient atomic explosion, perhaps triggered by technology or beings not of this world. The evidence for a sudden, immense cataclysm is what first fuels this radical theory. When archaeologists began excavating Mohenjo-Daro in the 1920s, they uncovered a city that appeared frozen in a moment of utter destruction, yet there were no obvious signs of a conventional attack. There were no vast troves of weapons, no evidence of a prolonged siege, and no mass graves containing the skeletons of warriors killed in battle. Instead, they found something far more eerie and perplexing. Groups of skeletons scattered in the streets and homes, many of them holding hands or contorted in positions of agonizing, instantaneous death. These were not people given a proper burial. They were victims of a sudden, overwhelming disaster. Even more bizarrely, initial reports from the excavation suggested that some of these skeletons showed radioactively higher levels than normal for ancient remains. While this specific claim is heavily debated and difficult to verify with modern scientific rigor, its persistence adds a layer of unsettling intrigue to the site's story. The most visually striking evidence, however, comes from the city's very bricks. At the site's epicenter, archaeologists identified a roughly 50-yard wide area where the bricks of the buildings appeared to have been vitrified. That is, melted and fused together by exposure to extreme heat. Stone foundations in this area were also found to be melted and glassified. This vitrification is a process that requires temperatures in excess of 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit, a heat impossible to achieve with the known technologies of the time. Fires from invasion or accidental blazes simply do not burn that hot or that cleanly. They leave behind charcoal, ash, and soot. The vitrification at Mohenjo-Daro is startlingly clean and localized, resembling the effects observed at known atomic blast sites, such as Trinity in New Mexico or Hiroshima in Japan. This physical evidence on the ground is the bedrock of the ancient nuclear war theory, suggesting a release of energy so immense and sudden that it literally melted the city's very bones. But if such a cataclysm occurred, what could have possibly caused it in the Bronze Age? This is where the theory branches into the realm of high strangeness and interdimensional speculation. Proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis point to ancient Indian Sanskrit texts, the Vedas, and the great epic, the Mahabharata, which contain passages that sound unnervingly like descriptions of advanced warfare. These texts speak of the Vimanas, magnificent flying chariots, and of weapons of unimaginable power. One passage describes an attack with a weapon that was a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, causing an incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as 10,000 suns that turned the surrounding cities to ashes. The survivors, the text claims, lost their hair and nails, and food supplies were poisoned, symptoms hauntingly similar to radiation sickness. Could these be literal, not metaphorical, accounts of a technological disaster? The theory suggests that the Indus Valley civilization might have possessed or been testing advanced energy-based technology that went catastrophically wrong, resulting in their own annihilation. A more extraordinary interpretation posits that this technology was not of human origin at all, but was either given to them or used against them by an interdimensional intelligence. If sites like Göbekli Tepe or the Great Pyramid were designed as portals, could Mohenjo-Daro have been a center for harnessing that same energy for practical use? Perhaps they tapped into a power source they could not ultimately control, causing a feedback loop that resulted in a localized nuclear-scale explosion. Alternatively, the city's destruction might not have been an accident but an attack. Ancient texts like the Mahabharata are filled with stories of wars between gods, of conflicts between different factions of advanced beings. Could Mohenjo-Daro have been a target in such a conflict? Its grid-like streets and advanced infrastructure wiped out by a precision strike from a rival force using technology indistinguishable from magic or physics. This theory transforms the city from a victim of a natural disaster into a potential casualty in an ancient and utterly terrifying interdimensional war, its melted stones standing as a stark warning from the past about the dangers of playing with forces far beyond our understanding. Tucked away in the remote highlands near Lake Titicaca in Peru, a place already steeped in ancient mystery, lies a rock formation that looks less like a natural occurrence and more like a door ripped from the pages of a science fiction novel. This is the Gate of the Gods, or Aramu-Myoru as it is known to the local indigenous people. Carved into a single, massive face of solid rock, the structure features a remarkable rectangular frame measuring precisely 23 feet high and 23 feet wide, with a smaller, recessed doorway in its center that stands just over 6 feet high. Unlike any other ancient site, it gives the uncanny impression of a passageway, a portal that was sealed shut or perhaps never fully opened, waiting for the correct key to activate its hidden mechanism. The precision of the carving, set against the wild, untamed landscape, is so jarring that it immediately suggests an intelligence and a purpose far beyond simple artistry. The legends surrounding this enigmatic gate are as captivating as its appearance. According to the oral histories of the local Aymara people, this was not built by human hands in any conventional sense. The most prominent story tells of a great priest named Aramu-Myoru who fled the Spanish conquest of the Incan Empire. He was carrying a powerful, sacred golden disc known as the Key of the Gods of the Seven Rays. Pursued by conquistadors, the priest sought refuge in these very hills, Upon finding the rock face, he is said to have invoked the power of the golden disc. The smaller doorway at the center of the larger frame reportedly began to glow with a brilliant blue light, and Aramu-Myoru stepped through the solid stone, vanishing from this world forever. The legend states he delivered the key to the gods inside, and the portal sealed behind him, leaving behind the stark, silent outline we see today. This story paints the gate not as a mere monument, but as a functional stargate, a passage reserved for great heroes and shamans to enter the land of the gods, a realm known as Heiau Maka, or the City of the Gods. This ancient belief in the gate's function finds a bizarre and compelling echo in modern accounts. For decades, the site has been a magnet for spiritual seekers, UFO enthusiasts, and those drawn to the unexplained, many of whom report strange and unsettling phenomena when they approach the structure. The most common experience is a sudden and intense physical sensation when placing one's hands on the small, recessed doorway in the center. People describe feeling a powerful vibrational energy humming through the rock, a tingling sensation moving up their arms, and some even claim to hear a faint, melodic humming sound emanating from within the stone itself. Others report fleeting visions, flashes of unfamiliar star constellations, tunnels of light, or glimpses of figures in what appears to be ancient priestly garb. These personal anecdotes, while subjective, are remarkably consistent across different visitors from all walks of life, suggesting the site possesses a palpable energy that affects people on a deep, sensory level. These experiences have inevitably led to numerous attempts to activate the portal. Visitors often perform rituals, meditations, or place offerings of crystals and other sacred objects into the small doorway, hoping to somehow reconnect with the energy that Aramu-Myoru supposedly accessed. Some have even claimed that during these attempts, they have witnessed the rock itself become temporarily semi-transparent, or have seen the doorway fill with the same blue light described in the legend. While these claims are impossible to verify scientifically, their persistence adds a layer of high strangeness that cannot be easily dismissed. The Gate of the Gods stands as a powerful testament to the idea that some ancient sites were designed not just for ceremony, but as literal thresholds, physical places where the boundary between our world and the next was believed to be so thin that one could, with the right knowledge or the right key, simply step through. Deep in the arid landscape of Rajasthan's Aravalli Hills stands a fortress that seems to suck the very light and warmth from the air around it. This is Bangar Fort, a sprawling 16th century complex of palaces, temples, and markets that is now a hollow, silent ruin, officially designated as one of the most haunted places in all of India. The Archaeological Survey of India has taken the extraordinary step of posting a sign at its entrance that explicitly forbids anyone from entering the site between sunset and sunrise, a stark governmental acknowledgement of the palpable and unsettling energy that is said to consume the fort after dark. While many ancient sites are shrouded in mystery, Bangar's legend is not one of glorious gods or celestial gateways, but of a profound and devastating curse that allegedly tore a hole in the fabric of reality itself, opening a portal not to enlightened realms, but to dimensions of pure shadow and sorrow. The origin of this dark reputation is rooted in two powerful and intertwining local legends. The first and most popular tale involves a beautiful princess named Ratnavati and a sinister tantric priest named Singhya. Smitten by the princess's beauty, the sorcerer attempted to use his black magic to bewitch her. He concocted a magical oil that would force her to fall under his control when she touched it. The princess, however, was warned of his plot and thwarted him by throwing the vial of oil onto a large boulder. The enchanted substance caused the boulder to roll down the hill, crushing the tantric to death. With his dying breath, he placed a curse upon the entire kingdom, dooming Bangar to destruction and ensuring that no soul could ever live within its walls again, their spirits trapped there for eternity. The second, and perhaps more ominous, legend states that the fort was built too close to the hermitage of a holy man named Baba Balak Nath. he permitted its construction only on the condition that the shadow of the palace never fall upon his home. When a subsequent ruler ignored this warning and built the fort too high, the holy man's curse brought about the city's utter ruin. Both stories, though different in detail, converge on the same terrifying conclusion, that an act of spiritual transgression caused a catastrophic rupture in the fort's destiny. This idea of a spiritual rupture is key to understanding the more extraordinary theory about Bangar, that the curse did not merely bring about bad luck, but actively opened a dimensional gateway to negative or lower vibrational realms. In metaphysical traditions, a curse is not just a spoken sentence of ill will. It is believed to be a concentrated burst of negative energy that can, if powerful enough, create a permanent wound or thin spot in the psychic fabric of a location. Proponents of this idea suggest that the tantric's dying rage, combined with the power of the holy man's decree, acted as a catastrophic spiritual key, unlocking a doorway that should have remained sealed. This portal, they argue, does not lead to other worlds in a spatial sense, but to adjacent dimensions populated by parasitic, chaotic, or malevolent entities, energies that thrive on fear and despair. The fort, in this view, became a permanent feeding ground, a place where these negative forces can leak into our world and influence those who enter. The experiences reported by modern visitors provide chilling, anecdotal evidence that something is profoundly wrong at Bangar. The most common phenomena are intense and sudden emotional shifts. People describe entering the fort grounds under a bright sun and being overcome by an inexplicable and crushing sense of despair, dread, or overwhelming sadness that has no apparent cause. This is often accompanied by physical sensations, a drastic and sudden drop in temperature, the feeling of being touched or grabbed by unseen hands, and audible phenomena like the distinct sound of heavy footsteps, disembodied whispers, and the faint, haunting strains of classical music and ankle bells, as if the ghost of the princess herself is still dancing in the ruins. Many visitors report their electronic equipment failing entirely, with cameras capturing only black or streaked images and phone batteries draining from full to dead in a matter of minutes. Perhaps the most compelling and bizarre accounts are those that involve temporal distortion. There are numerous reports of what can only be described as time slips. Tourists and investigators alike have spoken of turning a corner within the complex and briefly finding themselves in a fully realized, vibrant version of the fort, with sounds of a busy market, the smells of cooking food, and the sight of people in period clothing going about their day, only for the vision to vanish a second later, leaving them disoriented and back in the silent ruin. Others have had the opposite experience, feeling as though only a few minutes have passed inside, only to emerge and find that several hours have vanished. These persistent stories suggest that the dimensional instability at Bangar is not merely spiritual, but extends to the very flow of time itself, as if the curse did not just open a door to another place, but fractured the timeline of the fortress, trapping moments of its tragic past in an endless, overlapping loop. The Bangar fort stands not as a monument to kings, but as a terrifying warning of what can happen when dark magic and broken vows are powerful enough to shatter the walls between worlds. Leaving behind the sun-scorched ruins and oppressive legends of Bangar, our journey now carries us to a place of stark, windswept beauty and a different kind of ancient power. We travel to the remote Orkney Islands north of the Scottish mainland, where the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean meet in a constant, dramatic dance. Here, on a thin finger of land between the Loch of Stenness and the Loch of Harray, stands the Ring of Brodgar, a breathtaking Neolithic stone circle that feels less like a ruin and more like a timeless machine silently tracking the heavens. This is not a solitary monument. It is the centerpiece of a vast, sophisticated ritual landscape, a place where the stones themselves seem to hold the secrets of the sky and perhaps the keys to realities beyond our own. The sheer scale and precision of Brodgar immediately signal that this was a site of profound importance. Originally consisting of 60 megaliths, 36 still stand today in a near-perfect circle 340 feet in diameter, making it one of the largest and most perfect stone circles in the British Isles. The effort to create it was Herculean. The stones, some weighing up to 10 tons, were quarried from sites across the island, transported over rugged terrain, and erected with an accuracy that continues to astonish archaeologists. But the true genius of Brodgar lies not just in its construction, but in its intentionality. The entire circle is meticulously aligned with the movements of the sun and moon. On the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the solitary comet stone, which stands like a sentinel to the southeast, casting its long shadow directly into the heart of the ring. During the winter solstice, the sun sets in precise alignment with another outlier stone, framing the celestial event within the circle's embrace. This was not a casual observatory. It was a precisely calibrated instrument for marking time, and many believe for harnessing the energy of these powerful celestial moments. This deep connection to the cosmos is woven into the very fabric of Orkney folklore, which has always regarded the Ring of Brodgar as a place of potent, otherworldly magic. Local legends speak of the stones as petrified giants, ancient beings who were turned to stone for daring to dance on the Sabbath. Another persistent tale refers to the ring as the Temple of the Sun, and the nearby stones of Stenness as the Temple of the Moon, suggesting a deep, ancient understanding of their astronomical function. But the most captivating stories are those of the Troes, the Orcadian version of trolls or fairy folk. These beings were said to live in a world that existed just beside our own, accessed through specific mounds and ancient stones. The Ring of Brodgar was believed to be one of their primary gateways. On certain nights, particularly during the solstices and equinoxes when the veil between worlds was thin, the Troes would emerge from the circle to interact with and sometimes mischief the local population. These weren't just scary stories to keep children indoors. They were a functional belief system that explained the strange energies and occurrences reported at the site for centuries. This folk belief in the ring as a gateway finds a fascinating parallel in some modern metaphysical theories. Researchers investigating Earth energies have identified the Ring of Brodgar as a significant node on the global energy grid, a point where multiple ley lines converge. Dowsers and sensitives who have walked the circle frequently report intense physical sensations, a tingling in the hands, a palpable vibrational hum rising from the ground, and a feeling of dizziness or temporal displacement when standing in the very center of the ring. These sensations often peak during the solar and lunar alignments, suggesting the site's energy is not static but fluctuates with the rhythms of the cosmos. This has led to the compelling theory that the stone circle was not merely a calendar but a giant energy conductor. The specific placement of the stones, their composition, and their alignment may have been designed to amplify these telluric and celestial energies, focusing them to a precise point at the circle's center. Could this focused energy have had a purpose beyond simple ritual? The most extraordinary interpretation suggests the Ring of Brodgar was a machine for interdimensional travel or communication. In this view, the circle acted as a stable resonator, creating a harmonic frequency that could temporarily thin the veil between dimensions. During powerful celestial events, shamans or priests standing at the center of this amplified field might have been able to project their consciousness across this thin barrier, perhaps to communicate with the Troes of folklore entities that could be reinterpreted as interdimensional beings. The geometry of the circle itself, a perfect representation of wholeness and infinity, is a symbol found in many cultures to represent a portal or a doorway. The Ring of Brodgar, then, might have been a physical manifestation of this symbol, a permanent architectural structure built to stabilize a naturally occurring vortex and make it accessible for those who knew how to use it. The stones were not the gateway themselves, but the frame that held it open, a technology of consciousness crafted from the very earth and sky. Buried deep beneath the quiet rice paddies and rolling hills of Zhejiang province in China lies an enigma that completely defies historical explanation, the Longyu Caves. Discovered purely by chance in 1992 by a local farmer pumping water from a seemingly bottomless pond, this is not a single grotto but a staggering underground complex of 24 massive hand-carved caverns. The scale is almost incomprehensible. Each cavern spans thousands of square meters, with the largest covering an area larger than 2 football fields and reaching heights of over 90 feet. The walls, ceilings, and supporting pillars are all meticulously carved with uniform, parallel chiseling marks in a stunningly consistent pattern, creating a vast subterranean world of soaring arches and vast stone halls. But the most baffling aspect of the Longyu Caves is their utter silence in the historical record. Despite their colossal size and the estimated million cubic meters of stone that had to be quarried and removed, there is not a single ancient text, local legend, or piece of folklore that mentions their construction or purpose. It is as if this monumental undertaking, one of the largest engineering projects in the ancient world, was executed in complete secrecy and then deliberately erased from human memory. The precision of the work is the first clue that this was far more than a quarry or a mining operation. The chisel marks are perfectly parallel and angled at a consistent 60 degrees, suggesting the work was done by a highly organized and skilled labor force following a master plan. The walls and ceilings are smooth and intentionally decorated with these patterns, indicating an aesthetic purpose. Even more remarkably, the architects demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of structural engineering. The pillars are perfectly positioned to support the immense weight of the ceiling, and the entire complex was designed to be incredibly resilient, surviving for millennia without a single collapse despite the region being prone to flooding and earthquakes. This level of planning and execution is something we would expect from a major state-sponsored project, yet there is no evidence of who ordered it, who built it, or why. The absence of any soot marks from torches on the ceilings deep within the complex only deepens the mystery, raising the question of how the workers saw what they were doing in the pitch blackness. This combination of immense effort and total historical anonymity points toward a purpose of profound and perhaps dangerous importance, a project so critical that its very existence had to be concealed. One compelling theory suggests the caves were not built for storage or shelter, but to hide and protect something extraordinary, perhaps a form of advanced technology we would scarcely recognize. The sheer effort of creating such a vast, secret, and durable space implies the need to shield something volatile or powerful from the outside world. Could the Longyu Caves have been constructed as a secure bunker for a device or energy source, maybe even one not of human origin? The cave's remote location and their design, which lacks any obvious living quarters or utilitarian features like stables or kitchens, support the idea that this was not a place for people to inhabit but a vault for an object. Proponents of this idea point to the strange acoustic properties found within the chambers. In certain areas, the echo and resonance behave in unusual ways, and some researchers have reported detecting faint, persistent electromagnetic anomalies. If an active portal or energy-generating device was housed here, the stone itself might have been chosen for its ability to contain or dampen its effects, with the intricate chisel patterns acting not as decoration, but as a form of damping or focusing waveguide for energies we no longer understand. This leads to a second and perhaps even more fascinating interpretation of the cave's purpose, that they were designed as a giant resonant chamber for interdimensional rituals. The acoustic properties of the Longyu Caves are not just strange, they are intentionally magnificent. If you stand in the center of one of the larger halls and clap your hands, the resulting echo is a clear, sharp, and musical tone, completely unlike the muddled reverberations you would expect in a random cavern. This indicates the entire space was acoustically tuned. The specific resonance frequencies within the caves could have been used to alter human brainwave patterns, inducing trance states in participants. In this view, the vast pitch-black halls, illuminated only by flickering lamplight, would have been the setting for powerful ceremonies led by shamans or priests. The uniform chiseling on every surface might not be decorative but functional, a way to create a specific sonic environment where chanting, drumming, or ringing bells would be amplified and focused into a coherent frequency capable of vibrating the very fabric of reality. The cave complex, then, becomes a subterranean cathedral whose true architecture is not visual but auditory, engineered to use sound as a key to unlock doors to other realms of existence. The most haunting evidence for the cave's extraordinary nature comes from the visceral experiences of modern visitors. Those who descend into the cool, damp silence of the caves consistently report intense and unsettling sensations. Many speak of a profound and unnatural silence that feels heavy and oppressive, a stillness so complete it seems to absorb sound rather than echo it. Others describe sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature in specific chambers, and a palpable feeling of being watched by an unseen presence. There are numerous accounts of electronic devices behaving erratically, cameras malfunctioning, battery drains occurring at an accelerated pace, and compass needles spinning uselessly. Some visitors have even reported fleeting auditory hallucinations, the faint, distant sound of rhythmic chiseling, as if the ghosts of the original builders are forever trapped in their task, or the echo of a chant that seems to linger in the air long after it should have faded. These persistent anecdotes suggest that the Longyou Caves are not an inert archaeological site, but a place that still hums with a dormant, powerful energy, a silent testament to a forgotten technology or a lost spiritual practice that once sought to bridge the gap between our world and the infinite possibilities that lie just beyond our perception. This profound sense of encountering something intentionally designed is what fuels the most captivating alternative theories, pushing beyond the geological debate into the realms of lost history and high strangeness. For many researchers and enthusiasts, the precise angles, flat terraces, and towering pillars are not random acts of nature, but the sunken architecture of a prehistoric civilization. A civilization that may have possessed knowledge and technology far more advanced than our current historical models allow. The most prominent of these theories connects Yonaguni to the legendary lost continents of Mu or Lemuria. These hypothetical lands, said to have existed in the remote reaches of the Pacific Ocean, are described in various esoteric traditions as cradles of a sophisticated global culture that was lost to a great cataclysm, much like the story of Atlantis. In this view, the Yonaguni monument is not an isolated ruin, but a surviving piece of a vast, submerged metropolis, a power center of this forgotten world that sank beneath the waves during the catastrophic event that destroyed its homeland. The idea transforms the monument from a curious rock formation into a potential key to understanding human prehistory. If this was indeed part of Mu or Lemuria, its construction would imply a level of social organization, engineering, and astronomical understanding that predates any known civilization by thousands of years. This would radically rewrite the story of human development, suggesting that advanced societies rose and fell in a cycle lost to our conventional historical record. The local Ryukyuan folklore of the region, which speaks of a great flood that swallowed ancient lands and of gods who descended from the stars, is often cited as a cultural echo of this monumental disaster, a faded memory of a time when this land was above water and thrumming with life. This theory naturally expands into an even more extraordinary possibility, that this lost civilization did not just possess advanced architectural skills, but also mastered energies we are only beginning to comprehend. Proponents suggest that if Yonaguni was a major ceremonial or governmental center, its design might have been as much about function as form. The wide, flat terraces could have served as platforms for harnessing telluric energy or for celestial rituals aligned with specific stars. The most intriguing speculation is that the site was an active portal or a communication device. Its location atop powerful tectonic faults and its constant exposure to the strong Kuroshio current could make it a natural energy vortex. The monument's precise geometry might have been engineered to stabilize this energy, creating a focused gateway for interdimensional travel or communication with other intelligences. The eerie sensations and equipment malfunctions reported by divers could then be interpreted as the residual echo of this dormant technology, a faint energy signature that still lingers around the stones, subtly affecting the environment and those who enter its field. Recent diving expeditions have only added layers of intrigue to these mysteries, providing new data that both challenges and fuels the debate. While mainstream geological surveys continue to map the natural processes at work, other missions led by alternative researchers have focused on capturing more enigmatic details. High-resolution sonar mapping has revealed what appear to be additional, smaller structures surrounding the main monument, suggesting a larger complex rather than a single feature. Some divers have reported finding what look like perfectly circular holes drilled into rock surfaces at depth, a feature difficult to attribute to natural erosion. Perhaps the most compelling anecdotal evidence comes from those who have experienced the site's strange phenomena firsthand. Beyond the feelings of unease, there are accounts of divers witnessing unusual light effects deep underwater beneath, unexplained phosphorescent glows that have no obvious bioluminescent source, or shafts of sunlight penetrating the water in ways that seem to illuminate specific parts of the monument with theatrical precision, as if highlighting a pathway or an altar. These experiences, while subjective and impossible to verify with current technology, contribute to the enduring aura of Yonaguni as a place that actively resists simple explanation, a silent, stone question lying in the deep that challenges us to expand our understanding of both history and the very nature of reality. This idea of Karnak as a giant energy circuit forms the foundation for the most thrilling interpretation of all, that these precise alignments were designed not just to conduct energy, but to focus it with such intensity that it could temporarily warp the very fabric of space-time. If the stones are indeed positioned along powerful ley lines, their arrangement might act like a series of lenses, concentrating this terrestrial power toward specific focal points. At these convergence points, the theory suggests, the energy could become so potent that it thins the dimensional barrier, creating a temporary and unstable portal. This wouldn't be a science fiction Stargate with a shimmering pool of light, but rather a localized area where the rules of physics momentarily falter, allowing for something to pass through. The straight, processional nature of the rows takes on a new significance in this context. They aren't just pathways for ceremonial parades, but rather giant aiming devices or runways, channeling energy in a specific direction to open a doorway at a predetermined location, perhaps during a specific celestial alignment like a solstice or equinox when cosmic and terrestrial energies are at their peak. This extraordinary concept finds a surprising, if controversial, echo in the work of modern-day researchers who approach the site not with traditional archaeological tools, but with instruments designed to measure the subtle and the unseen. Dowsers, individuals who practice the ancient art of detecting subterranean water and energy currents, have long been drawn to Karnak. Their reports are remarkably consistent. They describe encountering powerful, pulsating energy fields that run directly along the stone rows, with particularly intense vortices or power spots at the heads of the alignments and around the larger solitary dolmens. Using dowsing rods or pendulums, they map out a complex network of energy lines that they believe corresponds perfectly with the concept of ley lines, with Karnak serving as a major nexus point in this global grid. Beyond dowsing, more technologically oriented investigators have arrived with electromagnetic field meters, magnetometers, and Geiger counters. Their findings, while often anecdotal and not published in mainstream scientific journals, are nonetheless intriguing. They report detecting unexplained spikes in electromagnetic activity around certain stones, with meters fluctuating erratically without any discernible natural cause like nearby power lines or mineral deposits. Some researchers have even conducted acoustic experiments, noting that certain stones emit a faint, resonant hum or that the entire site seems to possess unusual sonic properties, deadening some sounds while amplifying others in a way that feels unnatural. These anomalous readings are often strongest at dawn and during the solstices, lending credence to the idea that the site's energy is not static but is intimately tied to the cycles of the sun and the earth itself. For those who experience it, this data, however informal, provides a tangible, measurable dimension to the legends, suggesting that the stories of the Korrigans and the otherworld might be a poetic interpretation of a very real, albeit poorly understood, energetic phenomenon. This sonic architecture, perfected over 5,000 years ago, represents a form of technology that we are only just beginning to understand through modern science. The most startling discovery came when researchers decided to analyze the specific frequencies at play within the hypogeum's most acoustically powerful chamber, the oracle room. Using tone generators and sensitive recording equipment, they found that the room resonates most powerfully at a fundamental frequency of 110 Hz. This is not a random number, it holds profound implications for the human brain. Neuroscientific studies have shown that exposure to sound waves at 110 Hz can reliably shift human brainwave patterns, specifically reducing activity in the language processing centers of the brain's left hemisphere while simultaneously stimulating activity in the right hemisphere, which is associated with spatial perception, intuition, and emotional processing. This shift effectively quiets the internal monologue, the constant chatter of the conscious mind, and opens the door to a more receptive, trance-like state of awareness. In essence, the very architecture of the hypogeum appears to be a machine designed for altering human consciousness, a tool to help a shaman or priest transcend their ordinary perception of reality. The implications of this are extraordinary. We can imagine a small group of people gathered in the oracle room, the space illuminated only by the flickering light of small oil lamps. A priest or shaman would begin to chant or play a simple drum, their voice and the rhythm amplified and sustained by the room's perfect acoustics. The sound would not just be heard, it would be felt as a physical vibration moving through the body, a deep hum that resonated in the bones and the chest. As the frequency of 110 Hz filled the chamber, it would work its neuro-acoustic magic on the participants. Their everyday sense of self would begin to dissolve, making way for vivid visions, a sense of profound connection, and the feeling of their consciousness expanding beyond the confines of their physical body. In this heightened state, they would not just be praying to distant gods, they would be preparing to journey to meet them, to cross the threshold into the spirit world and return with knowledge, healing, or prophecy for their community. This wasn't merely a psychological phenomenon, it may have been a physical one as well. Some researchers have proposed that these specific sound frequencies, amplified by the hypogeum's carefully carved surfaces, could have done more than just alter brain chemistry. The theory suggests that intense, focused sound waves can actually interact with the fabric of space-time at a quantum level. At certain resonant frequencies, sound might create a temporary standing wave or a localized vortex, an area where the energy field is so intense that it momentarily thins the barrier between dimensions. In this view, the chants and drum beats were not just a call to the spirits, they were a technological key, a precise sonic code used to vibrate a doorway into existence. The participants, their consciousness already elevated, might have believed they were traveling to another realm, but perhaps in a way we cannot yet measure, they actually were. The hypogeum, therefore, might not just be a place that facilitates a spiritual experience through suggestion, but one that was actively engineered to create a temporary bridge to other realities using the physics of sound. The most compelling evidence for this idea lies not in ancient texts, but in the unsettling and consistent experiences of modern visitors. Even today, with electric lighting and guided tours, people report strange phenomena that seem to validate the site's original purpose. The most common experience is a powerful, almost overwhelming emotional reaction. Visitors describe sudden, inexplicable waves of peace, dread, or sorrow that feel as if they are emanating from the stones themselves. Others report hearing things that should not be there: faint, rhythmic drumming from deep within sealed passages, the distant murmur of many voices chanting in unison, or a low, melodic hum that has no visible source. These auditory hallucinations are so common that many researchers believe they are not hallucinations at all, but a form of psychic echo, a residual imprint of the powerful rituals that were performed there for centuries, somehow recorded in the very limestone and replayed under the right conditions. The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni stands as a profound testament to the idea that our ancestors were not primitive, but were instead sophisticated explorers of consciousness, who built not with microchips but with stone and sound, creating resonant chambers capable of tuning the human mind to frequencies beyond our normal perception and perhaps opening doors to worlds we have long forgotten. As we step back from these 30 incredible sites, scattered across every continent and spanning thousands of years, a breathtaking pattern begins to emerge from the chaos of history. It's a pattern that suggests our ancient ancestors were not isolated cultures fumbling in the dark, but participants in a shared, global understanding of the universe, one that recognized specific locations on Earth as something far more than mere places of worship or habitation. From the solstice alignments at Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid to the celestial gates of Tiwanaku and the Ring of Brodgar, we see a relentless, worldwide obsession with anchoring these structures to the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. This isn't just calendar making, it feels like a deliberate effort to synchronize earthly architecture with cosmic cycles, as if these alignments were necessary to tune these sites, to make them resonate in harmony with the universe itself at specific, powerful moments in time. Beyond the stars, another common thread weaves through these locations: the persistent and measurable presence of strange energy. Whether it's the electromagnetic anomalies in the King's Chamber, the erratic compass readings at Coral Castle and Karnak, or the battery-draining fields around the Moe and the Great Zimbabwe ruins, these sites consistently interfere with our modern technology. This isn't just folklore, it's a repeatable, physical phenomenon that modern equipment can detect. It suggests these places naturally exist or were engineered to become powerful vortices of telluric and electromagnetic energy. Our ancestors, without our scientific vocabulary, might have simply called this spiritual energy or mana, but they clearly recognized its presence and knew how to build upon it, using specific types of stone, precise geometries, and acoustic tuning to amplify and focus this power for a purpose we are only beginning to guess at. Perhaps the most compelling evidence for a shared ancient knowledge comes not from the stones themselves, but from the stories told about them. Cultures that could never have had contact with each other share eerily similar myths. The legend of a great teacher arriving after a cataclysm, Viracocha in the Andes, Osiris in Egypt, Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica, who imparts knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and masonry. The universal belief in a world before our own, a golden age destroyed by a great flood, and most strikingly, the consistent theme of non-human beings, whether called gods, giants, star people, or spirits who provided the advanced knowledge to build these sites and who sometimes used them as doorways to depart from our world. These are not isolated fairy tales, they are a collective human memory, a cultural fingerprint pointing to a common experience that was so profound it was etched into the mythology of every major ancient culture on Earth. This grand synthesis forces us to confront a radically different possibility for human history. The conventional narrative of a linear progression from primitive hunter-gatherers to advanced technological society begins to crack under the weight of this global evidence. What if, instead, history is cyclical? What if there have been other advanced civilizations, long lost to some cataclysm, whose ruins and knowledge became the foundation for the cultures we now call ancient? The technological precision required for the polygonal masonry at Sacsayhuaman, the acoustic engineering in the hypogeum, and the anti-gravity implication of Coral Castle suggest a sophistication that rivals our own. These weren't primitive people, they were master physicists, geologists, and astronomers who expressed their understanding of the universe through stone and myth, not silicon and code. Ultimately, this global pattern points toward a forgotten chapter in human history where the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds was understood to be fluid. These 30 sites and countless others like them may represent the surviving infrastructure of that ancient understanding, a worldwide network of powerful locations believed to be thin places where the veil between dimensions was naturally permeable. Our ancestors might have seen these portals not as supernatural, but as a natural part of a multidimensional universe they comprehended far more intuitively than we do today. They built their temples and monuments at these potent intersections not to escape this world, but to engage more fully with the entire cosmos, creating fixed points where humanity could consciously participate in the greater mysteries of existence. THIS Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter Chinese letter S everything we thought we knew about our past, suggesting that the greatest story ever told is not yet finished. It's simply waiting for us to rediscover its lost pages. And so our journey across continents and millennia comes to a close, but the mysteries we've explored are far from solved. We've stood before the silent, imposing stones of Karnak and felt the eerie energy humming along their ancient rows. We've plunged into the sunken enigma of Yonaguni, where the ocean guards secrets that challenge our very understanding of history. We've descended into the resonant, otherworldly darkness of the hypogeum, where sound itself was sculpted into a key for unlocking altered states of consciousness. From the celestial alignment of the Great Pyramid to the cursed grounds of Bangar Fort, from the gateway legends of Aramumuru to the geometric perfection of the Longyu Caves, these 30 sites represent more than just archaeological puzzles. They are a global tapestry of wonder, woven with threads of advanced knowledge, profound spirituality, and the tantalizing possibility of realities lie just beyond our current grasp. What unites these places is not just their mystery, but the profound sense that our ancestors were engaged in a project far grander than we've ever given them credit for. They weren't just building tombs or temples, they were constructing interfaces with the cosmos itself, using precise astronomy, masterful acoustics, and a deep understanding of Earth energies to create places where the veil between worlds was believed to be thin. Whether these portals were meant for spiritual journeying, communication with other intelligences, or even physical travel across dimensions, the consistent global pattern is impossible to ignore. It suggests a forgotten chapter of human history, one where the boundaries between science, spirit, and the multidimensional nature of the universe were understood in ways we are only now beginning to rediscover. The true value of these mysteries lies not in finding a single, definitive answer, but in the questions they force us to ask. They invite us to look at human history not as a linear path of progress, but as a series of cycles, with knowledge lost and found, and civilizations rising and falling in the wake of cataclysms we can scarcely imagine. They challenge the arrogance of our modern perspective, reminding us that technological sophistication does not have a monopoly on truth, and that ancient wisdom might hold keys to understanding the universe that we have yet to fully comprehend. These sites are a permanent invitation to stay curious, to remain open to possibilities that stretch the limits of our imagination, and to remember that our world is still filled with profound enigmas waiting to be unraveled. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever visited one of these mysterious locations and felt something inexplicable, a sudden drop in temperature, a wave of emotion, or a strange malfunction of your equipment? Perhaps you have your own theory about the purpose of the Moai, the builders of Göbekli Tepe, or the true function of the Great Pyramid. The conversation doesn't end here, it continues with you. Share your own experiences, thoughts, and ideas in the comments below. We read every single one and love delving into these discussions with you. If this journey into the unknown has captivated your curiosity, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next exploration into history's greatest enigmas. We're just getting started, and there are countless more mysteries waiting for us to uncover together. Thank you for watching, and never stop